Good evening. The time is now 5:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 24th, 2026. I'm now calling to order the regular meeting of the Midland Independent School District Board of Trustees. All trustees are present. Moving on to agenda item 2, verification of compliance with the Open Meetings Law. This meeting has been posted in compliance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, and I certify that the provisions of Texas Government Code Chapter 551 have been met. Moving on to agenda item 3 and 4, we'll have a moment of silence followed by the pledges to the United States and Texas flag led by Abel Junior High. If everybody would please stand.
Good evening, President Gwynn, members of the board, and Dr. Howard. My name is Dr. Andrea Rodriguez, and I'm the principal of Abel Junior High School. The mission of Midland ISD is that all students will graduate college, career, or military ready. In MISD, we work toward that mission every day. This evening, I am pleased to introduce an Abel Junior High student to lead us in our pledges. Abhinav Bere, in 8th grade, is the son of Sudhir Bere and Sridevi Godet. He loves robotics because he enjoys science. His favorite hobby is reading, and when he graduates, he wants to attend the University of Pennsylvania to become a lawyer. Together, we are educating the future with excellence. At this time, Abhinav will lead us in our pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We're now going to move to agenda item 5, introduction of new leadership for 2026-2027 school year. Ms. Fallon, sorry.
Good evening. It is my honor to present Dr. Augustina Lozano, the 26-27 principal of Bunch Elementary. Dr. Lozano brings 26 years of experience in education, having served as a classroom teacher, bilingual ESL education program coordinator, adjunct professor, high school administrator, and elementary campus principal. In every role, Dr. Lozano has consistently upheld academic excellence and maintained strong focus on student achievement. She has worked collaboratively with campus leadership teams to plan strategically and align goals to support long-term academic and cultural and operational improvement. As an instructional leader, Dr. Lozano has overseen the implementation of campus-wide instructional programs with a clear emphasis on student achievement and instructional quality. She provides meaningful feedback, professional development, and resources to staff while using data to identify areas for growth and celebrate successes. As the principal of Ralph Bunch Elementary for the 26-27 school year, Dr. Lozano will continue to balance high expectations with compassion and lead not only through direction, but by example.
Ms. McLean, sorry for fumbling that. Apologize. Moving on to agenda item 6, public forum. I remind speakers that the board will listen to comments but will not engage in dialogue or take action on items not posted on the agenda. Comments are limited to time allowed under board procedure, which is 3 minutes. Ms. Burleson's going to call names.
I have Jasmine Perez speaking about 11.9 Targeted Improvement Plan for IDEA.
Good evening, Board and Dr. Howard. When I think back to where Aiden started, it was a feeling of being unsure. He was nowhere near my size, small and sad. The time that I'm thinking of is when he had just been diagnosed with dyslexia. Now, my son, who is my world, went from being this confident little human who could and would take on the world to someone who would get discouraged just from the word school. Before Aiden started school, man oh man, when it came to him learning anything, you could see the joy coming through his eyes from his soul. Once he started school officially in pre-K, I started to see the change in his eyes coming from his soul. Now, as you can tell from this speech, I can be a bit dramatic. So when I saw this change in his light, that I was being the dramatic mother. I let this fester on until the second semester of pre-K. I brought the concern up and was told it was too early to tell. Years later, in 3rd grade, when he started the process of getting the testing, we waited. It took 1.5 years later for him to get this official diagnosis of dyslexia. All this time, him not learning and seeing him being discouraged. Sorry, y'all, I lost my place. I thought that getting the diagnosis letter of being dyslexic, that I would see the light come back, but I didn't. That's when I made the change to IDEA Travis. I'm not going to lie, I was afraid of this change being the wrong type of change for my son. He went in testing below his grade level, and I can tell you now, 6 years later, the doubt, the fear I had were completely wrong. My son, who was testing below his grade level, is now a mastery student. Not only has he gotten the support and help in academics, he is a model student for others that come after him. And that is what a great school builds into our kids. That is what IDEA Travis is. Thank you.
I believe it's Abigail Franco.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ibi Franco, and I am the proud parent of a student at IDEA Travis. Our journey with this school began when my son was about to start 7th grade. Today, as he wraps up his junior year, I can't help but reflect on how far he's come and how much IDEA Travis has meant to our family. When we first arrived, my son was struggling. His comprehension was low, his grades were disappointing, and despite receiving some support at his previous school, nothing truly changed. I was worried and concerned, but from day one at IDEA Travis, I felt heard. I raised my concerns, and they listened. My son was retested, qualified for special services, and with the help of compassionate teachers and staff, he grew stronger and more confident. By the fall of his junior year, he had graduated from those services, and today, he ranks in the top 10% of his class. What made the difference? I believe it's the personal connection, the smaller classes, the teachers who truly know their students, and the genuine care they show. At many schools, my son might have just been a number. Here, he is known, valued, and supported. My husband and I have built wonderful relationships with the teachers, and that partnership has been so important. Idea Travis has done more than just improve his academics. It's helped shape my son into an independent young man. At 14, he applied for his first part-time job all on his own, only turning to us when he needed a little extra information. Now, 3 years later, he's still there, gaining real-world experience and confidence. This school inspires students to dream big, aim for college, and pursue meaningful careers. One of the most exciting things about my son now is that he's creating his own Christian rap music under the name Little Sharky. He even has his own channel on Spotify, sharing his faith and creativity with others. This passion reflects not only his growing confidence, but also the independence and encouragement he's gained at IDEA. I also deeply appreciate the school's open communication. The staff keeps parents informed and involved. I can easily reach out to teachers and get prompt responses. We feel truly connected with this school and are beyond excited to begin his senior year at the brand new facility, IDEA Henry. To any parents considering IDEA schools, your child will be in good hands. If they're struggling, the school steps in with tutoring and extra help. This is a place that prioritizes each student's success. Watching my son become independent, handling his homework, making good grades, managing his own responsibilities, and now pursuing his musical
For the comment.
Next up, we have Liliana Flores. Speaking on the same idea, Travis.
Good evening, IDEA family and staff. My name is Liliana Flores. I am a current student at IDEA Travis, and I have been since 3rd grade. And I am excited to say that I will be a part of the first graduating class of IDEA Henry 2026-2027. I would like to start by thanking the IDEA team for giving me the opportunity to give yet another speech. Before IDEA came part of Travis wasn't the best decision when compared to other schools. And what I mean by that is that we weren't taught what was needed to be taught. The teachers tried their best with us, but it wasn't enough. As a result, we slipped our grades. Although it wasn't our fault, it still landed on us. And even though the work got harder, we still put our all into every assignment given. When IDEA came in, they helped us get to where we needed to be, such as learning and doing work, tests, and other challenges. During the process of being part of Travis, it was challenging, especially for me. When IDEA came, I personally didn't like it. I would get into trouble a lot. My actions would always lead up to me getting suspended. Seeing myself like that, I knew I would have to change for the better if I wanted to get into a good college and make my teachers and peers proud. I knew what I would have to accomplish on my end. I can confirm that every single IDEA teacher has been with me every step of the way, helped me in so many ways, and never gave up on me. They pushed me to be a better student and a better example for students around me. Despite my worst actions, they never looked at me differently. And that's one thing the IDEA team has made me really sit and think about. No matter the type of student, they want the best for you no matter what. They'll keep pushing you to be a better student, a student they can say she came a long way and never gave up on the things she wanted to do to better herself. One thing I could proudly say is that these teachers strive to push us academically each and every day to better ourselves for the future. With all that being said, I am very proud of myself for sticking with IDEA rather than moving schools. Because IDEA has helped me in so many ways, I know I would not be as successful anywhere else. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Juan Andrade. Did I say that right?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Juan Andrade, parent of Juan Andrade Jr. He attends IDEA Travis. Before it was IDEA, he did enjoy school, but not as much as now when it's IDEA. The teachers are doing a great job, the principals, the coaches. He's really, really interested in keep going, hopefully we can get into scholarships for the sports scholarships, and the teachers are doing great. I would recommend, if any parents want to bring their child on a board to IDEA, we're looking forward to the new campus too, so hopefully he'll get a couple of years there at the new campus, and that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
The last one will be Ashley Holt, speaking on 10.3 Special Services Strategic Plan.
Good evening. My name is Ashley Holt, and I am a special educator teacher in this district. I'm speaking today as both an educator and an advocate for students with disabilities. I want to acknowledge the complexity of special education services and the responsibility the district holds in ensuring those services are implemented with fidelity. At this time, there's a growing concern regarding the alignment between what is documented in the students' individualized education programs and what is consistently able to be implemented across campuses. Special education is not flexible in its obligation to provide a free, appropriate public education. Alignment between services, staffing, and implementation is not just best practice, it's a requirement. Consistency in implementation is essential to maintaining both educational integrity and compliance. When those elements are not aligned, the impact extends beyond staff strains and directly affects students' access to their education. My intent in speaking tonight is not to assign blame, but to emphasize the importance of ensuring that systems, staffing, and expectations are structured in a way that allows for consistent and compliant implementation across the district. I strongly encourage continued attention to this area to ensure that both students and staff are supported within a system that is aligned, sustainable, and legally sound. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 7.1, 2025-2026 Targeted Improvement Plan for IDEA Travis. Presenter, Dr. Cottrell.
Mr. Gwynn,
No.
do you need to open the public hearing? That might be a good question for Ms. Ballou.
We will now open the public hearing for the 2025-2026 Targeted Improvement Plan for IDEA Travis.
Good evening, Chair Gwynn, Dr. Howard, members of the Midland Independent School Board. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I would like to just start and make reference to, I think last month there was a little bit of confusion and a little misunderstanding, and I want you to hear from me. As I believe that I emailed you all that evening after I had the opportunity to view the board meeting in February. It was not clear to me that there was an expectation that the U was a U Jeff Cottrell as opposed to a U universal idea. It was not my intention to offend and or make you feel like I wasn't showing up and or staking the right amount and appropriate amount of priority for our students at IDEA Travis. And I say our students because they are our students, ours and yours. It's a community here in Midland that we seek to serve. And so I want to just level set with you that I'm here to serve and support the students that you're here to serve and support, and happy to walk through kind of what we have today and welcome any questions. I'm going to do less probably presentation and open it up for questions that you may have because I know that there was a series of them.
Can you adjust your microphone a little bit?
You need a little closer?
Yes.
Yes, sir. I can do that. Very good. Well, we will dive in and just kind of take you a little bit down history lane. The partnership began in 2020, and this is, as was brought up in recent months, it is the only partnership that we have inside the state of Texas. It's the only partnership that we have inside the state of Texas because Midland Independent School District found itself in a position where it needed IDEA in 2018, 2019 to avoid what was either going to be board takeover or campus closure. Matter of fact, I think that was the last time I was standing at this podium, was at that time serving as the conservator for Midland Independent School District when this partnership came to exist. I will share that we go through a lottery process with many of our students at IDEA, but we actually operate through the Midland Independent School District system, and even amended in what would have been about a year and a half ago, Dr. Howard, I believe. You and I negotiated an amendment, a renewal to our memorandum of understanding that governs this relationship that then prioritized and weighted students in the neighborhood because we heard that that was a concern from the board. We responded to that, included that into the memorandum of understanding, and so they are weighted, those students that reside in the neighborhood, but we work through a process, an application process through the school choice office here at Midland Independent School District, just like the rest of the campuses that you have that are choice. When we look at the historicals, the historical data is troubling. If you look on the left side of the screen, that represents Midland Travis, ranging from students meeting grade level from a high water mark of 18% in 2012-13 to a low water mark in 15-16 of 8%. About the time that we engaged in this partnership, it was 14%, not rated in 19-20 due to COVID without the test. All that to say, we moved to 20 to 40 to 38 to 34, 33. 38% is what we are forecasting currently in 25-26. Is that where we want to be? Unequivocally, no. It is not good enough for our students. And I say our students, the universal our. We have higher expectations than that of what our data bears out. But it's important to note where Midland Travis was for an extended period of time, where IDEA Travis is currently. It's a far cry. Far from where we want to be. We look at the student demographics. I hear commentary around the students that we serve at IDEA Travis being different than that of students in Midland Independent School District. It's really not that different. On the left, you've got IDEA Travis, in kind of yellow, orange, a little colorblind, so it's kind of in between there for me. Red is Midland Independent School District. There's not a ton of variance. Matter of fact, I would argue that the greatest variance exists in the number of students that are economically disadvantaged in our system at Travis versus the larger system of Midland Independent School District, and then also name the number of students that receive bilingual or English as a second language. We serve more students that need those services. A lot of commentary about teachers, teacher certification. Charters aren't required to have certifications for their teachers, albeit I'm a certified teacher. I came up through traditional route. Matter of fact, served in the traditional school districts, number of them. Teaching certification is good, but sometimes those that are alternative certified and or trained can be as equally as effective as those that would have received a certification. And I believe that our fundamental approach to coaching and supporting our staff bears that out. That sometimes we have folks that didn't go to school for 4 years of a bachelor degree in education, but ultimately came to IDEA, received the coaching, the support to be able to serve students. It's important to note that 28%, so more than 1 out of 4 of our students at the IDEA Travis are actually certified. And then I'd also just point out that Midland Independent School District, beginning in 2018, waived Section 21003 relating to certifications, meaning that Midland Independent School District says, there's opportunities that may call and suggest that there may be opportunities for us to serve our students with folks that maybe don't possess that certification. We look at revenue per pupil. These are conversations. Slide's a little smaller, but I'm just going to gloss over this slide. But it's important to note, when we are in a partnership, we get less money from you than when we run Idea Henry, Lopez, Yukon. As a direct result of the per pupil funding that charters receive versus ISDs receive and the way that that's comprised. I'm not going to go into great detail, but you passed a bond here recently, meaning that your taxpayers burden an interest and sinking rate to pay for your facilities. Charters don't have tax rates. So the state, in order to offset that lack of access to facility funding, is leveled through increased funding from the state to level out. It's not even level. INS rates and M&O rates for ISDs actually outpace the funding for charters. But it's important to note what I've laid out on this slide. Over the course of the last 4 years, you could see what revenue IDEA would have generated from student enrollment on that campus on the right versus what we receive in funding from Midland Travis, from Midland for Travis operation inside the 1882 partnership. You take that most recent 25-26 school year and you say 11,700 students is what we get, ballparking it, right? Let's say 12,000 from you for every student versus the 16,400 that we would get from the state if it was under our own banner. You take that $4,400, it's actually 47, say 4,600, multiply that out over the 1,200 students that we have on that campus, it's a substantial amount of money that is not accessed and invested into our students. I just point that out because why is this our only partnership? Midland needed us in 2018-19. And candidly, it doesn't make sense when you get right down to our model and what we do for our students. We're fortunate, as I had a good conversation with Chair Gwynn recently, that we have great partners here in the Permian Basin, and they provide funding to help offset some of that delta and invest in our students and their future, kind of leveling things out. When we think about Idea Travis contractual performance goals, these goals that are here on this screen are the ones that were just approved in December. So this went before the board just a couple months ago, and this is essentially what the goals were that were approved, that we would get to a C this year, and you can see it proceeding through there. You're familiar with this. This is a breakdown. This is responsive to, it's not in the exact format that I think that the board is accustomed to seeing with Midland Independent School District campuses, but it is our version of kind of reflecting where our meets in 23-24, 24-25, 25-26 with our current benchmark. So if the school year were to end today, that's the data set that we would end with in 25-26. It's a far cry, again, from where we want to be. And yet we continue to serve and support our students, respond with timely coaching of staff that are serving our students, but also redirection and intervention with our students. Off to the right are essentially the performance goal cut scores for a C. And so I know the board has adopted a series of board adopted goals. As it relates to our performance goal cut score, the MOU that was approved in December, as low as that is the target that has been established and approved at that 41 student achievement score. There's a lot of questions around the accountability systems and why Idea Travis is graded differently than a K-5 campus. And it really boils down to different campus configurations are determined to have different cut scores from the state of Texas. So the Texas Education Agency publishes a manual every year. This is actually pulled from that manual. What this is this is the highest grade level served across the top, the lowest grade level served on the left. So you think about going across. You would have pre-K being, you've got 12 as being the top right. So we would be in that category with pre-K. We would fall into a category of a green because we serve pre-K through 12. Why does the state do that? Because when you factor in the accountability scores at the secondary high school level, what we call college prep, is you have about 30% of your accountability rating that is accounted for by graduation rates and college career military readiness. And so in order to offset what is a mass swing in accountability scores with 30% being weighted in that space, the state establishes higher cut scores for what are secondary schools, high schools, Idea Travis, because we are a pre-K 11. What we do not have the benefit at Idea Travis, we do not have the benefit of graduation rates, nor college career military readiness to actually prop up that rating. If I were to overlay that additional 30% onto Idea Travis, and let's say we even got like far lower than what we get at the rest of our campuses, which is 100% college career military readiness, you'd see a mass swing in the rating. All that to say, our meets grade level is not at the level that we expect and want for our students, for this partnership, and for this community. When we break out, that was the other question, when you break out the data, elementary, academy, college prep, you can see the differentiation in terms of ratings. If we were to apply the previous slide thresholds to this year's data, we'd be projecting a 50 at the elementary, 78 at the 6 through 11 grade levels. And then you can see a different run and cut down below if we were to run it K5, 6, 8, 9, 12. The K12 that you see in the top is what we are currently forecasting. If the year were to end today with our current data set, it would be a 67, which is higher than that of what it was when we said the same thing when we had our first internal assessments in the fall, which is still not where we want to be. As far as the targeted improvement plan, we have a series of teacher strategies. We use high quality instructional materials, just like you do. State adopted, state approved, whether that's wit and wisdom at the elementary, whether that's great minds in ELA at a higher grade, whether that's bluebonnet math, we use high quality instructional materials. We also use DIBELS, which is the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy skills, which is a very well reputed assessment to determine how well students are progressing in early childhood before tested grade levels in the state of Texas. We use these high quality instructional materials and ensure that they are implemented with the fidelity that we expect. Candidly, doesn't always happen the way that we want. As my grandfather says, many a slip happens between the cup and the lip. And so I will share with you, while we have an expectation of exceptional fidelity, there are times where that's not happening in every single one of our classrooms. It's our dedication to ensure that that is happening, and we do that through constant walkthroughs, monitoring and supporting what's going on. I would invite, matter of fact, I am inviting each of you to come spend a day at Idea Travis, even if it's an hour, to watch what is the instruction that happens in our classroom, as well as the instructional coaching that occurs when our assistant principals of instruction or principal is in a classroom, our vice president of schools or executive director is in a classroom. There is real-time coaching and feedback that is occurring at any given time. We go through many of the same things that teachers in Midland Independent School District would say, yeah, we do that too. Lesson planning, internalizing the lesson, annotating, making sure that we've accommodated for students. You heard two parents just a little bit ago acknowledge that their students receive specific type services in our school. And so the teachers go through that process of identifying how they're going to tailor that lesson internalize those needs, and then turn that around and deliver for our students. We conduct professional learning communities 3 times per week, lesson rehearsals, prioritizing certain teachers 3 times per week. Rigorous coaching and feedback cycles, I spoke to this. Real-time monitoring and accountability. We have daily exit ticket mastery analysis. So every single day, our students have shown us how much they have progressed, how well we taught them, what we need to do differently. So we work through that through instructional rounds and turn that around with interventions, which then brings us to student intervention strategies. From 3rd grade to 4th grade, 5th, we have anywhere from about 20 to 30% of our students per grade level that are in interventions, some as many as up to 5 times per week, others 3. I won't go through each one of these grade levels and each one of these content areas, but essentially, this is the plan to move the needle to ensure that we are delivering better for our students than that of what we are today, because our expectations for our students and for ourselves is higher than what we are currently accomplishing. I'll pause for any questions that you may have for me. I am certain that you have some.
I just want to start off by saying thank you for being here tonight. I was pretty critical of idea last month. 3 weeks ago, you and I think roughly 3 weeks ago after that last meeting, you and I had a pretty good conversation over Zoom. Again, thanks for being here.
Yes, sir.
I know I was pretty critical last month, I guess, to say the least, but we talked about it. I mean, at the end of the day, we just want what's best for these kiddos, right? So, does anybody have
100%
any
aligned.
comments? Mr. Hodges?
I just have a couple questions real quick. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I also want to thank you for IDEA serving our students for a long time. I've been involved on the long-term facilities committee or what have you and back in a lot of the education kind of runway for 10 years in Midland. And so thank y'all for being here when it was difficult. So thank you. One of the questions I have to help this board and myself is if you go back to your financial slide.
Yes, sir.
On the financial, so your delta between your 16K and your 14K or whatever it was, 16.2, 14.5, whatever it is, on what you would get if you were a standalone versus being a partner here.
Yes, sir.
Does that include, and this is not this is just so everybody knows it's level set, right? But that number that you're coming up with, does that also take into consideration the offset costs that you get through our contractual obligations from the ISD to provide MEP and maintenance as well? Because there's some things that y'all aren't required to pay for that through our contracts that we're paying for to help y'all out.
It's a fair point in that within the MOU, there are services that we receive from Midland Independent School District. I would just counter that and say that helps for a school system that doesn't have a back office or the infrastructure that IDEA has with 100,000 students, 12,000 employees serving across the state as we do. We have very robust services. And so I would also offer, we have a regional office out here that serves 2 campuses just down the road in Odessa. And so it's a consolidation of effort for us to actually take on that type of ownership of facility maintenance or custodial maintenance or whatever it may be. It would be preferable to actually have that all consolidated for us because, again, there's economies of scale when we have multiple campuses that we're already funding that service for, and then we would have that same level of service and ability to bring that over here. But no, you're right.
No, and agreed, and thank you for answering. My advice would be to put that in the presentation for future boards.
You got it.
Just so no one can get you on that, right? Because then we're upfront on it and we go, hey, it's apples to oranges here, but here's apples to apples.
Happy to do that. Yes, sir.
The other part I wanted, so you are also responsible, IDEA provides their own transportation services to their students as well, and y'all are responsible for that overall cost. That does not come from MISD, I believe.
I believe y'all provide transportation services for Travis.
Don't y'all have little IDEA buses?
Well, we do.
I think you buy back the services, right?
Yeah.
So that's for Henry and The little idea buses or those?
They're standalone campuses that are not a partnership.
Okay. That answers that. Thank you. Then I cannot remember, are we a subchapter C or D on this one? Because we went back and forth on that forever. This is a subchapter C, I think.
A year and a half ago.
There's two
But I do
attorneys in there
recall
that make a
going
ton
back
of money. Y'all should know this. Y'all got JDs. Wish I had a picture of a coffee cup with the handle backwards on it and just said you had one job. Okay, I'll find that out later on.
Yes, sir.
I've got one last question. So on the quantitative, so when we look at your scoring versus your university prep versus the grammar schools, or elementary schools, is there a way that you can come up with a quantitative number to be able to represent a standard deviation when y'all don't have those two variables in high school? So you could come up with a ratio for the board to just say, to have the health on it, because it gets very confusing on multivariate equations when you dump all that in there. So if you could just come up with a quantitative number for a standard deviation and come up with a ratio, put it on a visual, everybody can see the health.
Yeah, we can do that.
I just wrote it down. I haven't had time to AI it yet, but I think I'm right on it already.
I will get with some folks and we will include that next go round.
Thank you very much. And again, I appreciate y'all being here and y'all served our students well. Here comes Watch Your Wallet. Robert's coming up.
I believe, I'm going back to some emails from 2023, I believe a subchapter C.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And the award goes to Robert Cedillo.
Dr. Howard's the one that found it. He confirmed it.
Listen, she's not an attorney.
Mr. Bishop, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gwynn. The question I have, all the students that are attending Idea Travis, how many of those students are in that, how many of those students attending live in that community versus, I guess, dividing between the ones that actually live in the community versus ones that are not?
I don't have that information with me right now, but I believe it's 2 out of 3. I may phone a friend.
I have it right here. So, Mr. Bishop, we have 413 students that live in that zone that are attending Idea Travis. That's approximately 32.6% of the kids.
Okay.
Invert me. 1 out of 3.
Okay, so I would like to also know, it's not anything critical, just food for thought, if you will, versus if they all can break it out, depending on how those students score, the kids that live in that community versus the ones that do not live in that community, if that makes any sense.
It does. We could cut that data.
So you can get that information?
We should be able to pull that data. I mean, I don't have it with me today, but
okay, no, that's fine.
I'm happy to bring that back.
That's fine. Thank you.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Dr. Freeze.
So thank you for coming again. I echo everyone's sentiments. Appreciate what y'all do for the community, for education. So, you know, in the real estate, y'all are getting this for $1 a year. Is that correct? The facility? I don't know if anyone, I thought I read that in the contract. Is that still?
I don't know that we.
Do you know what the number is?
I don't even know that. I mean, if it is a figure to it, it's nominal to your point. We would agree with that.
Partnership campus, I don't think they pay anything, right?
Well, that's my question is it $1 a year, the lease? And I was wondering how that's figured into the finances, because if y'all are spending $16,000 a year across the state of Texas per student, I would assume a lot of that is real estate costs.
They do not lease the facility, it's our facility as part of the 1882.
Okay, yeah, so is what I'm asking is does that 16,000 also
typically
include real estate costs for your other schools?
What that $16,000 does is it accounts for the monies that go all in on education for a student.
Including real estate?
Including real estate. However, what I'd offer is that when we have partners and we move to serve students in new communities, generally those partners actually provide a great deal of resource to help support, defray that cost of real estate. I'll give you, for example, and I won't name the campus because it became a point of contention recently and being brought up here, but we have a campus that we've constructed recently that came in close to what is about 75% of that amount would go directly to that facility. And so that still leaves us with roughly $1 million, I think was the math, that would have been over and above the facility cost to actually invest back into our students' education if it was run under our own banner. So of that 4,000 delta, essentially 3,000 of that goes to the facilities.
Dr.
We actually try to pull that down.
I think what maybe Mr. Hodges and now Dr. Freeze are alluding to is on the MEP, you know, if there's a plumbing issue, we go take care of that, we absorb the cost of that. If there's an HVAC issue, we take care of that, we absorb the cost of that. So I think that might have been a little bit of what they were hitting on.
Yes, that's part of it too, but from what I saw in this contract, I thought I read that we were renting it for $1 a year.
Dr. Freeze, while you go through that, Mr. Booker has a question. We'll come back to you while you go through there, unless you're ready.
What?
Well, you were thumbing through your papers. I didn't know if you were looking for something.
yeah,
If
go
you were,
ahead.
I was going to let Mr. Booker just speak while you finish looking.
No, I don't have a question. I just, I appreciate you for being here too. I do appreciate the data that you provided for us, but I do want to let the community know that the leadership that we have right now in MISD is not the same leadership that we had before you guys partnered with us, before we partnered with IDEA. So I just want that on the record so the community will know that it's a different leadership. It's not the same leadership back from 2018 or whatever.
No, you're exactly right. There's about 5 superintendents between that superintendent and Dr. Howard.
Go ahead, Ms. Burleson. Let me know when you're ready to.
So I realize you don't have to have certified teachers in a charter school, which is interesting from the state of Texas law, but that we are required of that in public schools for certified teachers in all of our core subjects.
By choice. By choice. Districts of Innovation allows for you to opt
Well,
out.
that's going away, but yes, we do have it for a couple more years. Secondly, I was on the same thing, that there's a $5,000 difference, but that's for facilities. So we're providing the facility for you. I'm struggling with, because the other thing that's true is it's not the same board that came in, and that's one of the barriers to 1882s from the state of Texas that I don't think they thought out very well in that scenario of that boards change constantly, and probably changing more so now than it did when they made the law. So that's always something that is hard for boards to continue down the road of what other boards have. I know you have to because it's in contracts, et cetera, but you know, educating every board member on 1882s, et cetera, is difficult. But the thing that I'm struggling with is the historical data is struggling, and I would have hoped because it started in the 1920 school year, so 20 as in the graduating year. So for 7 years, we've had the schools going, and so that struggling data is kind of getting to me, because if we truly had systems in place from your system of IDEA, which is a system, that we would have seen the continual growth up instead of the growth down. And so I'd kind of like to know, I know that you put all this in, and I've seen it many times before, the rigorous coaching, the structured instructional planning, the real-time monitoring, but what are the barriers to not continuing on an upward trend in the school? Because I'm assuming you've had pretty much the same kids.
Yes, I think that would be a fairly strong assumption. I would suggest that, as you would recognize, that when you have teacher turnover in a classroom or leader turnover on a campus, that generates inconsistency, a destabilization of that operation, And then those individuals that come in actually need to get rebooted and brought back up to execute at the levels that are expected. Just like I named that y'all have been through, I could probably rattle them off, the superintendents prior to Dr. Howard. I could do the same with the number of leaders that we've had on that campus.
Dr. Freeze.
Okay, so I kind of also want to address some of the performance. I got the taper reports at IDA Yukon, and y'all are doing pretty good. You know, and then I get the taper reports at IDEA Travis, and there is a wide gap. And I'm sitting here on this board. We have the same issues at MISD, and it's my responsibility to not have this kind of performance that I'm seeing at IDEA Travis. I want to see the same thing that you all can do at IDEA Yukon. You're proving that you can do it. You got your meets levels are almost uniformly, not, well, it's significantly higher in a lot of grades. In some areas it's really close. So, but overall, the meets is much more robust at IDEA Yukon. So what can we do, or what can you do, or all of us do to get this at the same level that IDEA Yukon's performing at?
Yeah, it starts with not with us sitting here in this boardroom. Candidly, everything happens in the classroom. And the number one in-school factor in a child's education and how well they're going to progress and succeed in life, number one in-school factor is that teacher. Number two is the campus leader. And so we've got to stabilize our staffing on campus to ensure that we have stability and that our students are receiving that. If you were to use UConn as the example, I'd point over there and say we've had that same principal in that position serving for an extended period of time, and she's doing some really great work.
So even in the reporting on this taper report, I go down to the staffing, and there's like, it's like not even reported. Is there some reason for that, or?
Yeah, I think that was a data error.
Okay.
Yeah.
About growth, I mean, growth also, it looks like IDEA Yukon's doing better overall. Would you agree with that, or?
I would.
So, I mean, just everywhere we look, I just don't feel like we're getting, I don't feel like this is just for our kids. And what can we do to get it? We talked about stability. Well, it just hasn't happened. We've had 3 years of D's, and that's just unacceptable. I mean, after the first year, I would have thought that everyone's hair would have been on fire and we would get this corrected, but here we are tonight.
I don't disagree with you, sir. And equally disappointed in the performance, yet there are great things going on that campus, so it's not to denigrate everything that's happening, but there is an element of opportunity for us to access and actually deliver better for our students. And so I won't quibble on that. I'm in absolute alignment with you.
All right, one other area I found, like just for example, social studies, I had like a meets at 8% on one of these grades. Is there any, it just seems like that's pretty.
I believe that there was a vacancy in that classroom. Again, I'm not there on that campus to be able to speak to that, but I believe that I saw that same data point and had that same question, that there was a level of change in teacher.
All right. I think that's all I have.
Mr. Hodges?
I just have one more question, and this might be one for Mr. Durham. But how many students do you currently have at IDEA Travis on, you've got university prep, or we haven't built that out, we just have elementary, right?
Yeah, it's all one county
750
campus number, and it's about a total of 1,270, I believe.
So 1,200. So my question for you, Mr. Durham, say for example, hypothetically in the future, they went from the subchapter C to a D to move out of district, and they've got 1,200 kids. Have we come up with a range, a safety net, to see how that would impact our revenues? Because if the differential between 14.5 and 16.5, 2,000 per student, if those students leave MISD and go to a standalone, then that we do not capture their WADA. As of currently, the 1882 partnership that we're in, we get the WADA that comes with them. So there has to be, I would like to see what the negative balance would be with 1,200 students exiting, and then range it out, because you're not going to get 100% that leave. But so where's that safety between 50%, 600 to 1,200, to see how this board, if that were to be the case in the future, how you're going to plan financially to offset that loss of revenue by losing the WADA.
So one thing that I will mention is all of our 1882 partnerships actually do receive that WADA. They receive the funding from the ADA plus the additional entitlement from special education, CTE. And so in reality, the easiest way to say that is our loss in revenue would be the district's holdback percentage of whatever we're getting from each of the partnerships. Now, that is the easy answer. That is not the exact answer. But like I said, the 1882 partnerships do receive their own WADA.
Just, I'm trying to understand this.
It's a ballpark $20 million.
How much?
It's a ballpark of about, I'd say $18 million, conservative number, on the amount of revenue that's generated by the students, 1,200-ish at the 14,000 number at Idea Travis. The holdback, to your point, is what, 10%? So that is going to be $1.8 million of holdback loss, but there's actually the offset of.
And then net out the
I think the
expenses on
bigger
us or
thing
whatever.
to consider is the impact to recapture.
Well, that's 100%. We've got the cumulative of A plus B equals how it's going to hurt us on recapture, but which would be B. And then A, I want to see how it would hurt us just as far as operation, like our annual operation goes, because I would believe that it is going to have a negative impact on the total amount of revenue if they go have a standalone school. Correct?
That is correct, but our net revenue would be dependent on.
Instead of us going back and forth, can we get a number? And then we don't have to argue. We can just get the number. Thank you.
Burleson.
So you also receive money from foundations, et cetera, too, on top of this money, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you give us a ballpark figure on how much that is?
Probably 8 figures.
8 figures? And then my second question is, what grade levels do you plan on leaving at Travis?
It is laid out in the MOU. I believe that is.
K-8,
Yeah.
pre-K-8.
Pre-K.
Pre-K-8.
So is Henry, but Henry's going to be.
I didn't bring it up. I'm just telling you, I didn't bring it up.
It's going to be pre-K2.
Yes, and then we'll launch 6.
Through 8, no, 6, and then 9 through
You're going,
12.
so I guess my final question is you're planning to run 2 campuses here in Midland?
Yes, ma'am. Very possible more in the future.
I guess I do have another question. So the 8 figures that you're receiving from philanthropy is used for what then?
It defrays the cost for our model, given the fact that, A, that facility costs roughly $50 million to build, and so it brings down the cost per pupil for that facility. It also goes to different initiatives that may be talent-related or that may.
Is that for Idea Travis?
In some cases, yes, ma'am.
Anyone else? Dr. Freeze?
Do you know how much Idea Travis is getting from the philanthropies?
Off the top of my head, no.
Do you know what philanthropies are giving overall, this 8 figures? I mean, can you tell us?
I mean, I suppose that I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if they have a problem with that. But it's probably many of the same foundations that support Midland Independent School District and.
I just would like to know so we can have a comparison.
The number, which foundations? There's probably, I'm going back on my list when we had the groundbreaking back in the fall at Lopez, and there was about 20 different foundations.
But you don't want to tell us who's giving the big checks or?
I'd encourage y'all to reach out to the foundations out here. I don't know that that's my business to disclose that.
Fair enough. All right.
Mr. Hodges?
I just want to make one comment because I think something that's always under the radar, and I'm just level set with IDEA, is things that happened a long time ago with a private jet and a ranch and all this. And I just wanted to tell you from a businessman's perspective, y'all self-reported, you turned yourself into the Texas Rangers, both of the investigations were done, and I champion that. It shouldn't have ever happened. Those people were left the organization. But I think that instead of people on, playing the telephone game and saying nasty things because they're jealous about the amount of money it is, it's nice to fly private because you don't have to go through TSA, especially now. So make more money. But I just wanted it known that from a sitting board member and a citizen that y'all did what's right, and I wish that more industries and nonprofits would self-report, go to law enforcement and go through it, because as someone who's had to go through a similar process, it's not very fun. And I appreciate it and thank you very much. And that's where people in the community, all this negative goes, and y'all should be proud of the fact that y'all had the intestinal fortitude to self-report even though you knew you were about to go through a really terrible storm.
Yes, sir. And to your point, that was 6 years ago, and I wasn't with the organization at the time, so I can't take credit for that approach. I would actually point to the board members that actually turned that over and took that action, one of whom is actually right here in the Permian Basin and is about as stand-up gentleman as they come, and that board operates with exceptional integrity, and I'm proud to serve them.
Is anybody else? I'll now open up the hearing to public comment. Does anybody have anything to say on this? Seeing that there is none, we'll move to agenda item 8. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank y'all.
Moving on to agenda item 8, consent agenda. We got 8.1, approval of board meeting minutes, 8.2, approval of monthly financials, 8.3, approval of donations over $20,000, 8.4, approval of investment management firm, 8.5, approval of the 2026-2027 school board meeting calendar, 8.6, approval of the 25-26 local improvement plans for Burnett Elementary, General Tommy Franks Elementary, Henderson Elementary, Jones Elementary, Pease Communication and Technology Academy, Alamo Junior High, Goddard Junior High, and Legacy High School. 8.7, approval of library books for spring semester. 8.8, approval of the following new local policy in addition to the board reporting calendar, FNIC local, student conduct disruptions. 8.9, approval of out-of-state travel. Does anybody have any items they'd like to pull? I don't want to pull one, but I just want to make a comment on 8.7. I got an email earlier about possibly a inappropriate book in one of our libraries. I just want to let the community know that we have our community, what do we call it? The committee, library committee? Yes. Library council, thank you. So on that council, every board member nominated 2 people. We have community members that they work very hard to go through those books and approve them. Unfortunately, they're humans just like we are, and they might miss something from time to time. So if a book or something that comes across that is deemed inappropriate, bring it to the principal's attention, and they can contact their principal supervisor, and we'll do our best to get it out. We're not going to catch everything. We try to, but I just wanted to mention that since I received an email about it today.
Thank you.
And I want to mention that book is not a book that we've purchased this year since the Library Council has been put in place. It is a previously purchased book, so it would be one that came before, and so you're exactly right. That could go to the Library Council at this point.
Yeah, and the parent already emailed back and said Dr. Rodriguez had handled it immediately.
Right.
Thank you for that if she's still here.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded for the approval of consent agenda items 8.1 through 8.9. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 9, superintendent's update. Dr. Howard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gwynn. So it's that time of year where we're beginning to talk a lot about the class of 2026. We're estimating over 1,700 students will graduate from our 5 high schools this year, and that will start up with Early College High School on May 14th, which is not that far from now, and then, of course, followed by Coleman, Midland High, Young Women's, and Legacy High School. We also have 10 days until the Reading Language Arts ELAR starts, so our teams are really focused in on that. I'm encouraging parents to make sure they have their kids at school every day. And then we have advanced placement testing coming up the first 2 weeks in May. We offer 30 AP courses, and we have over 2,600 students scheduled to take those exams, an exam of some sort, those first couple of weeks. You may have seen some information that came out from TEA recently related to a proposed rule in having a standardized approach to GPA weighting. They've probably about 12, 14 years ago, they tried this too and then did not do it. So this is right now a proposed rule, and there are comments. A public comment period is open March through April. This proposal actually creates some shifts at the state level, but aligns pretty closely with what we already do. So we don't anticipate a lot of changes. Our current weighted GPA system already recognizes the rigor of advanced coursework, including AP dual credit and honors classes. And so 27-28 school year would be the implementation with students entering 7th grade, and 29-30 school year would be the first year that students would be in high school under the proposed GPA changes at the state level. So we'll continue to monitor that. If it does indeed pass and is adopted, of course, the team's already looking at what kind of changes we might need to make, but I wanted to bring that up. Also want to highlight some recent successes to date, and we still have a lot of activities going on, so these numbers will continue to grow. But to date, we've had 346 state qualifiers in the district. That's in the areas of athletics, fine arts, and CTE being the largest number. And we've had 19 national qualifiers. That's some of the travel you just approved. And we'll recognize those students, their coaches, sponsors, and directors in May at the district recognition. While we only recognize at the board level the state qualifiers, I think it's also important to note that we've had 304 regional qualifiers in athletics, fine arts, and CTE. Later in the reports, you're going to hear from Mr. Durham on the process, the budget process. We are working on a balanced budget and are on track to bring you a balanced budget in June. We're finalizing the recommendations for the comp plan and hope to bring that to you in May. And early budget projections and the work that we're doing does have a compensation increase for our employees. And so we'll continue to work through that. We're in the process of staffing our campuses. That'll continue through mid-April. And that's based, of course, on enrollment projections. There are no changes to staffing ratios at the elementary campuses or the secondary campuses for classroom positions. I also want to lift up some of our Grow Your Own programs. We heard earlier about, the differences between 2018 and 2026. But just over the last 3 years, we've had a really big emphasis on Grow Our Own because there are not enough people out there. And so we can't wait for them to come to us. We have to grow them. We have 23 registered apprentices. These are people maybe in a paraprofessional position, working in the office. They want to be a teacher but never had the opportunity to work themselves through school. If they're accepted, they continue to work for us, but they also get financial assistance to get their degree and their certification. We have 3 that'll be graduating in May, and we have 20 that are scheduled to start in the fall. And so that's been a very successful program, and the best thing is typically they're already with us. Once they get certified, they stay with us because this is home. We also have the student teachers and residency programs. The numbers are not as big as we would like it because for whatever reason, people are not going the traditional route through university preparation programs. So we have 12 student teachers and 12 teacher residents. Of course, we would like those numbers to grow, and that's why you'll continue to see us bring you recommendations for partnerships with universities across the state that can possibly produce student teachers and resident teachers for us. We've celebrated our 2 principal fellows that are finishing up this semester. This is through the Texas Tech Principal Fellows Program. So we talked about teachers earlier, and that is the #1 student outcomes indicator, but followed by the principal. And so making sure that we have principals ready to go, and we do have funding for 2 principal fellows for next year. Upcoming events on Wednesday, April 1st. I'm not sure why we chose April Fools to open enrollment for school next year, but we did. And so on April 1st is when parents will be able to begin enrolling their students for next year. We have Good Friday holiday, and then because of the bad weather makeup, we will have school on Monday, April the 6th. I want to end with the chance to thank our team for the way they've handled a challenging 4 or 5 weeks. In the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've had the death of 3 of our students, and then just yesterday, the death of one of our longtime employees who was a current employee. And that takes a toll on the students, on the faculty, and on families. So I just want to commend our team for the work they've done and the support they've provided those families throughout these last 4 or 5 weeks. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Dr. Howard. Moving on to agenda item 10, district informational reports, 10.1, bond 2023 monthly report. Mr. Lopez, welcome.
All right. Good evening, President Gwynn, members of the board, and Dr. Howard. I am pleased to give you your 2023 bond update. We'll jump right in. The 2 high schools, they're well under construction. You've had some site visits and been able to see for yourself a lot of what's going on out there. I've got construction photos. This is showing the Lee High School. You can see a lot of the steel, concrete going up, a lot of work happening out there. A few hundred people on site on any given day on the Lee High School site. The next slide shows an overlay of what the floor plan is, and then we've actually developed just a key plan that kind of shows you where the core classrooms are in blue, CTE in orange, fine arts there on the bottom left in purple, and then the athletic facilities in green. So that gives you a little idea of what's under construction and how those programs are facilitated. This is a kind of an aerial view of that construction, so you can see walls going up. This is Midland High School, which is also on schedule. You can see the current construction, overlay of the plan, and then that same color overlay that shows the fine arts. And obviously this plan is rotated 180 degrees to face north Wadley, but you can see the academics the admin on the west side with core classrooms in blue, and then athletics on the east. And then these are the current photos of construction. And then that gives you a pretty good idea of where they're at currently with concrete block and steel. Moving on to package 3, elementary renovations. Those will begin in this summer for much of the sprinkler work, and the vestibule additions will start in April. Package 4, you can go out to those 2 junior highs and see construction underway. We've got photos that kind of show you what the construction looks like now, and then the color boxes and pink line shows where that new bus drive would go, so it kind of gives you a little context of the green where the new building would be, and in context to the current construction. The previous was Goddard, and then the next is Midland Middle School. So you can see those projects under construction and what the future additions will be. All right, package 5 is Alamo Middle School, and that's scheduled to begin in April. That's currently on schedule. Package 8, you will be awarding a contractor tonight for construction on those elementary schools. And then package 9, 10, and 11 are currently in design. So you have quite a few projects in design. And then tonight we'll be looking at moving forward on package 12 by awarding architects for Carver and YWLA. Same for Story Middle School and Encore. And then lastly, we talked about package 14, having that package on hold to get the rest of the packages under construction prior to moving forward on those projects. And that is the 2023 bond update. Any questions?
Any questions? Where are we at on the pipeline relocation?
Pipeline relocation, the Energy Transfer surveyors have been on site last week, and they are scheduling to actually start excavation this week or next. And so they'll be on site to start construction, and they're on schedule and will not be holding up the opening of the high school.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Freeze?
I just want to ask it kind of for clarity. So are they meeting the terms of our agreement with them right now, Energy Transfer?
Yes, yes. And they've been coordinating with Lee Lewis, and they have not held up construction at all. They've been working hand in hand, almost as a subcontractor to the project.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yep, welcome.
Moving on to agenda item 10.2, financial budget preparations for the 2026-2027 update number 2. Mr. Durham.
President Gwynn, trustees, Dr. Howard, this evening the district is bringing update number 2 before the board in preparation for the 2026-2027 fiscal year. So just some groundkeeping. For the legal requirements, the school board is required to approve 3 budgets on an annual basis. The general fund, child nutrition fund, and debt service fund at the functional level. And then afterwards, the board is required to set a tax rate prior to September 30th. This shows the budget priorities set for the 2026-27 fiscal year. The first is creating a balanced and sustainable budget. The second is provide compensation increases. And the third is to create a budget that is data-driven based on board goals, strategic plan, and comprehensive assessment. The 26-27 budget planning overview, this is just a very high-level overview of what's to come. So in April, we'll receive our preliminary 2026 taxable values from MCAD. These will be the values that we utilize for the budget preparation for 26-27. In May, we'll bring the 26-27 compensation plan for the board for approval. And then in June, we'll hold our public hearing to discuss the proposed budget and tax rate. The board will approve the 26-27 budget, and then the board will also approve the final budget amendment for the current 25-26 fiscal year. A few main factors influencing the budget process are shown. The main ones are legislative session, inflation, enrollment attendance, available funding based on enrollment and attendance, and then unfilled positions that cause vacancy savings. So some of these slides I'm just going to go over very briefly based on previous conversations of what's been provided to the board. However, afterwards, if there are any questions, I'm more than happy to address. So the school district is funded based off 2 main items: property taxes, state aid. For the district, based off the current TEA calculations, property taxes make up approximately 91.7% of overall revenue, while the state is approximately 8.3% based off that formula. On the property taxes, the values are determined by MCAD. We have 2 different tax rates. The largest one is the M&O, but while the M&O is the largest portion of the tax rate, TEA actually comes in, sets the maximum compression rate for the MNO, and then the district is able to put on the 5 additional golden pennies, which is not subject to recapture. And then the district also currently offers a optional homestead exemption of 10%. On the state aid, the comptroller determines the values. The major influences is enrollment, average daily attendance. The basic allotment is not adjusted for inflation. And then the basic allotment was actually increased during the 89th legislative session by $55 for a total of $6,215. So the current cost of local optional homestead exemption, this is not advocating for any changes, but making sure that the board is aware of what the local optional homestead exemption is for the district. Districts are allowed to adopt a homestead exemption of up to 20%. MISD currently offers a 10% to our constituents. For the 24-25 fiscal year, out of 1,013 school districts, 196 currently provide the optional homestead exemption, which equates to approximately 19.35%. For the 25-26 fiscal year, this is an estimated loss of approximately $2.8 million, with the majority of that showing on the INS side, as the MNO side is offset by a recapture. This is an overall history of the fiscal year basic allotment. So you can see 2014, 2015, 2016, 2020, and recently 2026 are the 5 years since 2010 that the basic allotment has increased to provide additional allocations for school districts. This graph just shows the differences between how recapture works and the overall school district's allocations. So step one is determining what your school district is entitled to based off multiple areas, but 2 of the biggest ones is going to be the property values and enrollment. So that's the first step. The second step is then to look at how much revenue you are bringing in for property values. On the left-hand side, you can see the district collects insufficient funds from property values, and so the state comes in and makes up that gap. However, on the right-hand side, which represents Midland ISD, we collect over and above what our entitlement is, and whatever is above goes back to the state in the form of recapture. This is just an outline of what that looks like on the monetary side. So let's say the overall entitlement is $12 million. On the left-hand side, your property value is $700 million. $700 million. Total state share is 5.6 in order to ensure that you're getting your entire 12 million. However, on the right-hand side, property value is 1.4 billion. And so we're receiving above and beyond what the entitlement is. And so that's the reasoning why that $787,000 is recaptured, sent back to the state. This graph shows our historical certified property values per the comptroller. Since 2012, there have only been 2 years of decrease in the property values. You can also see that there are some years that there are very significant increases in the overall values. And so this is very important whenever we're looking at our overall budget, specifically on the INS side. On the M&O side, if values fluctuate, that really only entails whether recapture increases or decreases. However, it directly affects the INS side. There are 2 tax rates. One is the maintenance and operations for daily expenses. The other is the debt service, or known as the INS tax rate. This is for paying back bonded indebtedness that has been voter approved. This is a trend line of showing our historical tax rates, and so you can see specifically since 2021, we have decreased our overall tax rate by approximately 18 pennies. That has also allowed us to save taxpayers approximately $157 million in interest since 2012. That is a mixture of refunding and defeasing. And after this August board meeting where the board approved to refund and defease, the district only has outstanding debt related to the voter-approved bond 2023. So anything prior to that has already been paid off, and we continue to look at being aggressive on paying down that debt. This graph illustrates tax collections compared to recapture. The bar graph shows the overall tax collections for M&O collections. Specifically, the line graph shows how much of that has been recaptured. So you can see 2023, we had a peak, and then that is actually when tax rate compression started, and so you can see that it's came back down significantly and kind of has leveled out. That also depends on our overall enrollment and average daily attendance as well, depending on how that fluctuates. I wanted to show you this. This is the reductions to the current operating budget, specifically going into the 2025-26 budget. So you can see on the general fund, we decreased the overall budget by approximately $35 million. On other funding sources, specifically on the grant side, we decreased it by approximately 2.7 for overall savings of approximately $38 million. My intention is to continue keeping track of these reductions so that I can bring that before the board and making sure that the community knows how aggressive we have been in order to make sure that we do balance a balanced budget for these 26-27 fiscal year. This graph illustrates current fund balance as of 6/30/2025, which is our fiscal year. It also categorizes it into different pots of money. The current months of operating expenses, including recapture, is approximately 6.9 months of operating expenses in fund balance. This graph illustrates enrollment trends and projections. The blue indicates enrollment, red indicates average daily attendance, which is what the school district is funded on, and then the green line is the ADA percentage based off our system. And so one thing that I'll mention is you can see that the projected 2026-27 school year, we do show a slight decrease in ADA percentage. I'm currently projecting a conservative budget on 92.5%. It is currently 92.9% as of cycle 4. However, being conservative, we also utilize the demographic study. We've previously had that discussion, but this year the demographic study provided us 3 different options on projecting our students, and we took the most conservative of their low estimates to project next year. That is something that we continue to monitor, and then depending on overall enrollment trends, whenever we start school in August, we'll make the needed adjustments at that time and continue monitoring that throughout the fiscal year, similar to this year and years past. This is the current projections for the current 25-26 fiscal year. So one thing I'll mention is the Board of Trustees did adopt a $7.89 million deficit. However, you can see on the very left-hand bottom corner, I am projecting a surplus based on current assumptions. Some of those assumptions is ADA projections of 26,000 students. We are currently at 26,173. The reasoning why I reduced it by that 173 is in the fall semester we continue to trend downward in enrollment and in attendance, and so being conservative there, we'll continue to monitor that. Attendance rate, we had originally budgeted for the year at 93%. We're currently at 92.9% through cycle 4. 2 main things to keep into account whenever we're looking at this is we are receiving 100% of all 1882 revenue from the Lamar campus due to how the original contract was negotiated for the final year because it was a Coperni project. And so the past 2 years, the district has not kept any of the holdback money from the 1882 revenues. However, in that final year, 100% of the 1882 revenue stays with us. That's approximately $1 million or right under. Also in this assumption, I have included the sale of the apartment complex that was board approved. We recently closed on that, and so that is one of the areas that has helped make sure that we're in a surplus. However, I do believe that these are conservative, and it will get better as we continue to close out the fiscal year. Some of the fixed required budgeted costs are shown on the screen. I just wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on some of the costs that have to come off the very top before allocations can then be provided. So 78% of our overall general fund expenses is directly related to payroll. We're also required to budget tax collections and assessments, insurance, including but not limited to property, auto, risk, medical, the required financial audit, utilities, fuel, and the largest one out of this is on the recapture side, excluding payroll. But recapture is a budgeted expense where we have to budget the expense and then the revenues as well. And that's where it's extremely important to show what our overall revenue and expenses are, and then netting out those tax collections and that expense to figure out what the district actually has autonomy to expend that year. Projections for the next fiscal year, as I mentioned, we passed a budget of $7.8 million in the deficit for this year. I do not anticipate us ending in a deficit, but rather a surplus. But some of the current key budget assumptions for next year is an enrollment projection of 28,959 students with an ADA projection of 25,952. That is with a 92.5% attendance rate. Interest rates continuing to fall, resulting in less earnings. That is one thing that we're continuing to monitor. 2 years ago, we had about 5.25 to 5.5 interest rates. Right now, it's trending about the 3.5. And so that is a significant difference in our overall interest earnings throughout the fiscal year. Another one is oil royalties, consolidation of the MAP and Lamar campus, along with the sale of real property. Some of the strategies going into this upcoming fiscal year in order to ensure that we pass a balanced budget is removing large budgeted expenses out of the budget that can be addressed later on through payroll vacancy savings. And so what that would look like is starting in October, whenever we know kind of where our overall enrollment ADA is trending, we'll rerun calculations. We'll also see how much money we've saved in our payroll side, and then we can reallocate some of those funds to other needs that do not need to necessarily be addressed until later on in the early to late spring for that. Another thing is budgeting at a 97 to 99% fill rate rather than 100% fill rate. That is going to be on a conservative basis. Once we finalize that, we'll make sure that that is part of the budget update so the board is aware. However, we'll make sure that we're still able to have payroll vacancies and then reallocate some of those funds being saved to other needs that were originally removed. And then potentially including the sale of real property. Currently in these assumptions, I do have the sale of MAP based off the appraisal. I am seeking clarification on the current appraisal as I've heard that some property around has sold for more. So just making sure that we are as aggressive as we can be for that property since it is in a valuable area. Two other ones that are not currently taken into consideration is the land out south along with the boneyard. Next steps, finalize the compensation plan for review, and then we'll bring that before the board at the May board meeting. Continuing to refine the budget for next year, the biggest one, payroll, and then non-payroll as well, and then recommendations for our self-funded medical plan. And then upcoming items, this is the second budget update provided to the board. However, we'll have one every single month from now until June whenever the board adopts the budget. We'll have a finance committee meeting in May. We'll have our June board meeting where we will propose the final budget amendment for the current year along with the adoption for next fiscal year, and then setting the tax rate for the 26-27 fiscal year in September, once TEA determines our maximum compression rate. And at this time, that concludes my presentation.
Mr. Bishop?
Yeah, I guess a question maybe for Mr. Durham or Dr. Howard. So these 28,000 students we're projecting, are these students that have physically enrolled in schools up to 28,000 we're talking about?
So, no, sir. There's students that are either with us right now or the projections coming into kindergarten.
Okay, so if we're projecting, are these students are enrolled at 28,000, but we're showing an ADA of 26 plus, if you will. So where are the 2,000 students? I mean, do we have a clue where they are?
So the ADA is the percent of students who come to school every day. And so let's say I'm one of those 28,000 students and I come to school 1 day a week. I'm going to impact the ADA and lower that number, but I'm still a student in projections as far as having to be prepared for that student when they do show up. The other piece is our pre-K students are funded as 0.5s. And so while we have to staff a pre-K student as a 1, the ADA is a 0.5. And so the ADA is always lower than the projected enrollment.
Okay, so that 2,000, if you will, that I guess calling short, is that part of the pre-K of the half-day?
It's a mixture of attendance and pre-K.
So we have that many students, I guess you could say, that are truant, according to our ADA.
Well, our attendance rate right now is 92.9 today.
So that 8% is costing us how much money?
1% is about $1.6 million.
1.6 million. And we don't have truant officers anymore, right?
We have truancy measures.
But we don't have the officers that we used to.
But if we look at our historical rates of attendance, before COVID, after COVID, it really dropped and came back. The attendance wasn't any better during that time where we were spending money on truancy officers.
Maybe one of these days the state will change to go off of enrollment versus ADA.
That
would have an impact on all districts, not just Mid and ISD.
Dr. Howard?
Yes.
Could you, Tom has got a great question on there, and I think this is important to differentiate between the ADA and the WADA, because even though we're down in enrollment, the percentage of students that are more expensive has gone up. So there's a power of magnitude on the expense that's incurred when your WADA goes up as well. Could you, anyway, will you make sure, because that's the bigger piece that I think we should be concerned about, is how expensive are the students that are showing up? What's that differential this year versus last year? Does that make sense, Dr. Howard?
Yes, so there's average daily attendance and then weighted average daily attendance. And the weighted average daily attendance are for different types of students. And so the more expensive a student is to educate, the WADA carries more funding. However, I think Mr. Hodges is getting to is the funding does not equal to what it costs to educate some of our students.
Thank you, Mr. Durham.
Dr. Freeze?
I got
it, Tommy?
Okay.
Sorry.
I just got kind of a question about selling our property as part of our operational budget. I don't think that's a good idea to include, but maybe you have a reason why we do that. And I think when you sell it, you reduce your operational and maintenance costs. That's helpful, but when you just put the sell in there as part of your, I just don't think it's a good idea to include that. But
So I can definitely address that. While I definitely agree with that, this is a one-time revenue coming into the district. I know that we are planning for that, but I'll give you a great reasoning why we're including that. So with the implementation of our new ERP system, we are required to have all of our programs that are currently tied to our systems be configured. And so, unfortunately, every single one of those systems is charging us a one-time fee in order to change their ties between our current ERP system and our new ERP system. So that is the one reasoning why we are doing that, because of that one large increase in expenses for this upcoming year as we transition to the new ERP system. Moving forward, though, that will not be the case.
so that apartment, do you know how much that, we have a surplus of a little over $1 million. What was the apartment?
So it was approximately $2.6 million. I can tell you right now that $1.1 million in the surplus I'm using as conservative measures. I'm taking my payroll projections, but then I'm including 100% of my non-payroll budgets being expensed, and I can guarantee you right now that will not occur. And so I fully intend on showing a larger number, and then in June, and then once the audit is finalized and all the expenses and revenue are trued up, the audit will show a larger number than that 1.1 based off my current assumptions.
Okay, good. And I like some of your adjustments you're doing. It seems like we've been pretty conservative, because if you get, I kind of feel like if you want to run a balanced budget every year in fairness to the taxpayer and the students.
in that, you know, if you're running a surplus, you could have potentially deployed that money to serve the students, which is why we're taxing people. I mean, we're not here to, you know, have a huge bank account for the taxpayer. But that's why I think it's good to have as much realistic number as possible, not necessarily conservative, given if you've got, you know, you've got a nice balance sheet to cover $1 million here, $1 million there. But, I mean, would you all agree with that, or?
And I can't speak for the board, but our goal is not to run a surplus budget year in and year out. But we certainly want to be conservative and not spend money that we don't have to. And we have been fortunate to have some properties that were sold, and that money comes in, and that makes, you know, we didn't account for that necessarily going into this budget year. And then also there are the payroll savings that come into play. And that's why we're talking about one of the strategies as far as what percent of payroll we budget. Of course, that won't be across the board because some positions are filled at a higher rate. So it'll be dependent on the types of positions. But then also the opportunity as we work through the year and we see those payroll savings, being able to bring recommendations to the board to do budget amendments so that money can go back to our students in schools.
I'm just going to throw this out here. I think all this budget talk is crazy. When I sit here and look at the numbers, projected 83 million, send it back to the state this year. But in return, they're going to give us right under 34 million back in funds. But then we're going around telling everybody that it's the local municipalities that's raking the coals over the taxpayers.
Right.
If we're going to do away with school taxes, let's
Our
do it now.
revenues, 8% of our revenue comes from the state. 8%.
Yeah, 8.3 or something. But Tucker, can you do something, or Mr. Durham, can you do something for me when you get a chance?
Yes, sir.
Just one day, if you get bored, which, you know, you don't have anything to do, I would really like to see what it would look like for our taxpayers in Midland. Just hypothetically, this will never happen. There's too many grifters in Austin. But hypothetically speaking, if recapture went away and they took the restraints off on where we can and can't set our tax revenue, I would like to see what we could theoretically drop our tax rate in Midland to if we took away the floor and the ceiling penalties and made up for the net $50 million roughly that we send back to the state. I'd just be curious to see what that really looked like. I know I'm wasting a bunch of time. There's nothing we can do about it, but Mr. Hodges.
This kind of goes with, kind of bolts on to what President Gwynn said, but I would like to, and this is a curveball, right, but I really think the board should consider this. There's been some districts across the state of Texas that have tried to do this. They've not done it well, and it's blown up, and it's caused a lot of issues. But if there was a way to look for you to come up with the data and see about splitting the district. Now, I'm not saying MISD and MISD2, because it doesn't work. You make too many people mad. But if it is, it doesn't matter if it makes sense or it's crazy. All it matters is if it's legal. So if you legally could split the district into MISD littles and then MISD biggies, you're not even going to affect your UIL because you're still going to have the same attendance and the same amount of kids in your high schools, which makes everyone mad. So it's a $50 million question. Can you come up with the boundaries, and can you come up with a way to draw the financial MCAT audits to where you can split the district in two? Me, I'm very greedy, so I'd split it like 4 or 5 different districts, and I'd start sucking money back from Houston and Austin that we've given to them since 2013. But that's very unreasonable and unrealistic. But I think if you just broke it down into like an elementary school district and a upper or middle school and upper district, there's a $50 million I mean, it is worth, in my opinion, it is worth the time spent trying to figure out a creative solution that doesn't cause fire within the community to save $50 million. Because then I'll be off the board and I will call President Gwynn and go, now that you've got 50 million more, I want you to raise that homestead exemption from 10 to 20%.
Just for the record, that will not happen while I'm here. Maybe. I don't know. I think
Not asking to raise that rate. I want that on the record.
what he's getting at is the same thing I'm getting at. I mean, we talk to Dr. Howard and Tucker about this all the time. We're always trying to figure out a way how we stop. How do we get around? I mean, I've went as far as like, can we just not pay it and see if they actually? But I've been informed that would not end well for us. But I just think it's crazy how much time we spend sitting here talking about how we're going to do this and do that when we're giving the state back $55 million, and they want to act like they did us a favor by giving us $5,000 a teacher. I mean,
And you're not going to win at the State House.
You're not.
You can win it.
It's not going anywhere.
You can win it here.
Austin's on a sales pitch right now that we're going to eliminate local school taxes, so we'll see how well that goes and when it happens.
You can win it here, though, with creative solutions as long as you run it through. I think you come up with the intermediary to run your money back through the two districts, too. There's a way to do it.
I think the quicker we
spend a weekend binge watching Narcos, right? You'll figure out a way to funnel the money.
I think the quicker we all realize that Austin's not coming to save us, the better off we'll be. That's just my opinion. Anybody else?
I think we all know Austin's not going to come save us.
Thanks, Mr. Durham.
Thank you all.
Moving on to agenda item 10.3, report of progress of the short-term strategic plan related to special education. Dr. Howard and Ms. Shockley.
While Ms. Shockley's coming up, just to remind the board, back in January, we brought to you the short-term plan. So we're a couple of months into that. And so today, Ms. Shockley is going to provide an update and the progress that we've made on that short-term plan.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to come and provide an update for you all. It's been a pleasure working in Midland ISD so far, and I'm looking forward to my continued partnership with you all. In terms of the short-term plan, we have 6 priority areas with, in this short-term strategic plan, we've identified 29 critical action steps. Overall, the plan is approximately 30% completed, and we are in progress on about 55% of the action steps. When we take a look at the organization, staffing, and monitoring, the department organization is, we've reorganized a couple of times. We'll continue looking at that organization to make sure that it is efficient and effective and that everybody's in the right places. So we are continuing looking at that. Everybody has their assignments. We're continuing to define assignments, duties, and responsibilities and support where it's needed. We have reinstated clerical support. That was it had ended at the end of last year, but we have reinstated some clerical support for the department. This is critical for our evaluation staff so that they can do the work of child find, evaluations, ARD meetings, and so on to maintain that compliance and to ensure that we're providing services to students that ARD committees determine is appropriate. And so the clerical support has been a very big help in that department in running paperwork, providing parents with their copies of the paperwork, and maintaining our state files and ensuring that those are legally compliant. We are also actively interviewing for open positions. We have people who have left mid-year, and so our supervisors are continuing to work with the campuses to identify those open positions and really trying to identify qualified candidates to fill those open positions. So we are working diligently on that. In terms of leadership and accountability, we've provided training in some critical areas for our campus and district leaders, disciplinary actions, federal and state regulations, making sure that we are aligned with federal and state regs in implementation of our IEP programs, our special ed programs. Recommendation is made to continue training. We are beginning that and then really continuing that for the future to set a really stable foundation and some systems structures for stability within the system, and so that everybody knows how to operate, so that we're all operating consistently and across the district. We are in the process of developing training for boot camp for our district and campus administrators. The special ed training will focus on really how to manage and how to run a special education program, making sure that we're compliant, again, with federal and state regs, but more than compliance, really meeting the needs of the students. We want to make sure that we're addressing student needs, really looking at the whole child to serve them, rather than just meeting timelines. If we meet timelines, that's great. We have to do that. That's a given. So following that is really meeting the needs of our kids. Additionally, we are in the process of developing a professional learning catalog for the summer of 2026 and then for the 26-27 school year. Our professional learning catalog will be provided to the staff. Our focus is going to be on, again, some of those compliance issues, but also the development of an appropriate IEP. How do we evaluate where a student is? What do we as educators need to do to ensure that our students are receiving the services and the appropriate services? How are we documenting those services that we're providing to them, and looking at their progress on their goals and objectives, and making sure that their IEPs are appropriate. So those are some of the training topics that we'll be working towards and developing for our special ed teachers, our gen ed teachers, district and campus administrators. It does take a village, and we are all in this together. And so we want to make sure that everybody is receiving the learning opportunities that they deserve, so that they know how to operate within the special ed system. We've identified funds to create and present these trainings to the staff for the summer and for the next school year. And of course, we're in the process of developing those procedures that are aligned with state and federal regs. And then we want to make sure that the way that we're doing things in Midland matches what the state and federal regs say we have to do. And so we're in the process of aligning all of that. The state will come out in probably late June with some more guidance on that alignment with our procedures and state and federal regs. But right now we're working on the documents that we have prior to the release of that. So we are working diligently on creating and updating those district procedures. And then for immediate stability, we are working on a staffing gap analysis and really looking at guidelines for appropriately staffing our specialized classrooms based on student needs. We can't just say that a classroom requires one teacher and two paras. We really have to base our staffing ratios on student needs and what is required to meet the students where they are, and in order to find to include and ensure a free and appropriate public education for our students with disabilities. We're continually reviewing our special education evaluation process with our evaluation personnel. We are keeping really tight watch on those evaluation timelines. If we're getting close to missing those timelines, then we're bringing in additional support for our evaluation personnel. And while that is compliance, looking at those timelines, it also is addressing student needs. We want to identify students, which we're required to do, but we want to identify them early and as quickly as possible, so that if they do meet eligibility criteria, then we are able to provide those services to them as quickly as possible, because they deserve that and they need that. So we're working on those areas of the strategic plan. And really, in summary, we've made some foundational changes so far. We are really looking towards putting in some systems so that in the future we do have a good foundation in Midland, and we do have some systems in place so that everybody is operating on the same playing field and we are consistent across campuses. We are focusing our resources, of course, now on those that are in process, and some of the actions that have not begun. We are also starting to look at a long-range plan and the development of that. And before I close, I want to recognize our special ed supervisors. This leadership team has been incredible during this transition period. They are a dedicated, wonderful group of leaders in Midland. They're dedicated to our students, our teachers, our parents, and they're here to serve the district and the community. And so none of this work would be possible without them. And so they have really stepped up and really gone above and beyond, and they're willing and rolling their sleeves up, and they're just a great group of leaders willing to provide support for everyone in the district, so and within the community. So I want those individuals to be recognized, and that's all I have. If you have any questions, I'm here to answer anything you might.
Dr. Freeze.
I just kind of got a question on, I mean, I sure appreciate all this that you're doing. This is very, very important work. Human capital, I mean, how far away are we? You know, we see it everywhere in this area. We just, in my profession, healthcare, it's just very sad. We don't have people to serve the community. And kind of from what I'm hearing is, you know, I mean, do we have enough professionals, or are we even close, or is there a chance to get enough?
So
how is this looking?
I think that's a great question. Of course, it's a shortage area, and teaching and serving in the special education area is a high burnout area because there is a lot that's required. So one of the things that we are doing right now is we're looking at our staffing to student ratios. I will come in the audit report with some recommendations for guidelines. And so there may be an opportunity for us to look at staff across the district and shift and reallocate some resources from one space to another if one space may be overstaffed. I believe that the Grow Your Own program that Dr. Howard mentioned earlier is an area that we really could focus on and focus heavily on with and try to recruit from within with our TAs and within the community. So I think it's a great question, and it's something that we have to continually look to solving. I think that there's more to it than just a pay or the hours. I think leadership in the district matters, and I think that is, I can see the tides turning just when I've been here, for the short time that I've been here. The other thing is providing our staff with the knowledge and the professional learning opportunities that they need in order to do their jobs and do them well. We have a lot of really gifted and great teachers. I mean, I think you heard from one of them tonight. We have great teachers who want to do great things for our students. Our job then is to support them and give them the knowledge that they need so that they can go and serve our students and provide that appropriate education for them. So I don't know that I really answered your question, but we're looking at it.
Yeah, that's a very good response. I would kind of like to, you know, since we do have a lot of, we have partners listening or whatever. I mean, I've been here 16 years, and I have yet to be here when there are not enough jobs. And so often we hear all this taxpayer money and policy and doing this and doing this. Oh, we're going to create 100 more jobs with this taxpayer expenditure, or 500 more jobs with that taxpayer expenditure. And that's just, all that's doing is exacerbating our problem. We need people. We really need to figure out how to get people to come out here, and I think that's a great way to do it. You know, is to you know, what can we do to make the job better? But from a policy perspective, overall, across this whole region, we need people. We don't need jobs. I mean, just creating more jobs because it sounds great, it's exacerbating situations like this. Because they're just going to come in, they're going to come in, and they're going to need more services and education and healthcare, and we didn't bring in people that do that. So that's kind of my perspective.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hodges?
I'm sorry.
You good?
Thank you, President Gwynn. Thank you for the information. I know it's hard work. I'm going to kind of go on a different path than my colleague here, because for me, my wife worked in the program here at MISD for a very long time, and so did my mother-in-law. And my wife would have, 3 or 4 pairs that would sleep, go to their car, vape, smoke, whatever. So I don't want workers. I want people who want to be there.
Yes.
And I want to weed them out before. So as a sitting board member right now, I think part of this program, because it is different being in spec ed, that there should be a process to kind of weed out those the ones that are just looking for a job. They can go be a fry cook, but they're not going to take care of our most special kids that their entire existence is due to another human being. So, I mean, go to McDonald's, right? I mean, that's great, but don't work for MISD, because I've personally seen it. I have put Christmas presents, Christmas decorations at the apartments we just sold for some of our pairs, because they're hardworking. We need to figure out a way eventually. 50 million, Tucker, is the question to come up with, so we can pay them more, because it is a very difficult job. But I just want it on the record. We don't need just warm bodies. We need specific people who want to be there, and I hope MISD weeds those people out who don't want to be there as hard as we weed out our football players.
Thank you.
Ms. Burleson?
I'll say one of the most important parts of a special needs classroom, from teaching special needs where I started out was in life skills, are the paras. And they were as important as I was in the classroom, and sometimes more important. They taught me a lot as a first-year teacher out of college. So I agree with you. I agree that our paras have to be vetted heavily, and they really need a lot of training. I think that if we get them the training they need and they're really vetted into the program, that they can be our best asset in a classroom.
I agree with that.
Anyone else? All right, thank you.
For the record, that I was not making a blanket statement on all paras. There are some that need to be weeded out. The vast majority of them are great people, but there are some that like to vape.
Mr. Gwynn, we will be bringing the long-term plan to the board in May.
Okay. All right, thanks. Moving on to agenda item 10.4, UIL realignment for the 26 through 28 school years. Mr. Torres.
Good evening, President Gwynn, members of the board, and Dr. Howard. I'm Wes Torres, Executive Director, Athletics. I come this evening to provide the board information regarding the 2026 through 2028 UIL realignment. On February 2nd, 2026, the UIL released the district assignments for the 2026 through 2028 school years in football, volleyball, and basketball. Midland High and Midland Lee will remain in District 2-6A. The district was affected by Friendship High School's drop in classification. This drop was due to the addition of Friendship Memorial. District 2-6A will consist of Midland High, Midland Lee, Odessa High, Odessa Permian, and San Angelo Central. We do not anticipate a budget increase in our sports travel budgets for the 2026 season. The major impact is having open dates in district play. For example, football will have 4 district games and have 1 open date in district play. We anticipate approximately $5,000 savings in transportation costs with the new football schedules. Volleyball, basketball, and softball will have 2 open dates due to the double round robin schedule in district. Double round robin means that each high school plays every other District 2 6A high school twice. Team tennis will have 1 open date. Baseball will not be impacted due to scheduling a quadruple round robin format. Soccer will begin playing a triple round robin schedule in 2026 in district play, alleviating their struggles to fill their non-district schedule. Cross country, golf, swim and dive, and track and field will have no impact to their schedules. YWLA is entering District 3-4A in volleyball for the 2026 season. This will be the school's first UIL season in volleyball. They will compete with Andrews, Fort Stockton, Greenwood, Monahans, Pecos, and Seminole. YWLA will have 2 open dates in district volleyball because they will be playing a double round robin schedule. They will compete in about approximately 12 more volleyball games due to playing UIL and their district being larger outside of them, which they've been playing what's known as an outlaw schedule when they weren't part of UIL. Of these 12 games, 6 of them will be at home. Although we have an approximately $5,000 increase in transportation cost, we will not have to raise our volleyball transportation budget. The new district will impact the sports offered at YWLA as follows. Spring tennis, cross country, and swim and dive will not be impacted by the new district. We've discussed the impact to volleyball. The remaining athletic and academic district alignments will be released no later than April of 2026. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding the 2026 through 2028 UI realignment and its impact on Midland ISD.
Dr. Freeze?
So, the football issue is, is there anything that we could do? I mean, that seems to be where it's hurting the most,
Yeah, I don't, the toughest part is scheduling, which we're having success to this point, finding teams to play, which I think, Lee had a much different schedule this past 2 years because they had to play so many games on the road. We've kind of leveled that out. We're not quite finished with the scheduling. I would say we're about 99% finished. At the same time, once we were able to level those out, I think we're going to be fine transportation-wise. The biggest impact that it has on scheduling is typically in our 6-team district, we play 5 non-district games, 5 district games, with the only open date being everyone in our district has a common open date the week before we start district play. In this 5-team district, naturally because it's an odd team district, someone's not playing every Friday night. So everyone has a built-in separate open date within district play. So what we did is we extended our non-district to include 6 non-district games. The tough part is finding that 6th game, simply because most other teams regionally are playing in larger districts, which they're already in district play.
So do you think there's any chance any of the Lubbock schools will ever come back to 6A?
No, sir. Lubbock enrollment is declining rapidly. I think they're closing schools at it seems like a pretty high rate from what I read, unfortunately. Abilene, Lubbock are in the same boat.
But Friendship Memorial is anticipated to go back up to 6A in the very next realignment.
Yeah, and so the only possibility I would say right now is Friendship Memorial. I did visit with their AD in the last week or so, and their current projections at this current cutoff for UIL and 6A, he thinks if they were doing it right now when comparing the projections for 2028, that they would be close, possibly around 100 students below. That wouldn't benefit us. We need them to be above that.
They could also redraw their lines potentially to stay in 5A though, right?
Potentially.
Yeah, so it's...
I don't think, from talking, I don't think that they particularly want to be in 2 different classifications.
Yeah. So for the YWLA, are they pretty happy with this
arrangement, or?
I mean, ideally, I think, they're happy to be competing in UIL. We've played a rogue schedule, which, as you know or may not know, it's tough to find games when you're playing an outlaw schedule because everybody's playing their non-district and they go immediately into district play. And so they're excited about the venture of, being in UIL play where they're guaranteed a district schedule, and we're able to, draw more teams to play us.
All right, well, thanks a lot, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Go ahead, Mr. Roberts.
I just have a quick question, and it's not really related to the change in UIL. It would be the process. So if we wanted to have a competitive shooting team for our schools here, like rifle, pistol, shotgun, or competitive fishing, wrestling, MMA, anything like a, strong, competitive sports that would do that a lot of people would utilize out here, or a rodeo team, what would be the option on doing that? I'd love to see a shooting team for MISD.
Well, I don't think that falls under athletics.
But I'm wondering what the UIL, like how you would we would go, the board would recommend that, or with UIL, how do you set something up like that?
I'll be honest, I've never been a part of that. That's something I can look into. I know that, for instance, we have lacrosse as a club sport right now. That has remained a club sport because I don't think there's been enough interest for it to be just a competitive UIL sport.
I think we'd have kids lined up all over the place with Borelli shotguns ready to shoot some sporting clays in Midland.
I don't disagree with that.
Anyway, I'll do it offline. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Torres.
Yes, sir.
It's been requested that we take a 10-minute break.
I move.
Second. It's been motioned, second. We'll reconvene at, say, 7:55. The time is now 7:55 PM, and the board is reconvened in open session. Moving on to agenda item 11.1, action items, discussion of and request for approval of a budget amendment number 8. Mr. Durham.
I apologize.
Stay with us for about another 45 minutes.
Yes, I apologize. So this afternoon, the district is recommending the approval of budget amendment number 8. What this budget amendment is addressing is cross-functional transfers, and because the Board of Trustees is required to approve the budget at the fund and functional level, it does require board approval. And so at this time, I recommend the Board of Trustees approve budget amendment number 8 as presented.
Any questions? Do I have a motion?
I move.
It has been moved and seconded for the approval of budget amendment number 8. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11.2, discussion of request for approval of RFP number 26-1, bulk fuel, diesel, and gasoline. Presenter, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, President Gwynn, members of the board, and Dr. Howard. I'm presenting for you discussion and approval of RFP 2601, bulk fuel, diesel, and gasoline. On January 19th, the RFP was issued. It was advertised on January 22nd and 29th. 11 vendors submitted proposals. Those proposals were opened on February 9th. The purpose of the RFP is to establish a qualified vendor pool to provide bulk fuel and gasoline on an as-needed basis for district operations. Services include fueling of school buses, support vehicles, and the district's white fleet. Estimated annual expenditures are approximately $750,000. Pricing is tied to the daily market rate published by the OPIS, Oil Price Information Services, OPIS. Based on the evaluation and results, the committee recommends awarding Parks, Fuel, and Suncoast Resources as these vendors were determined to provide the best overall value to the district. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Maybe I didn't hear him all the way through, but just wondering, I know fuel prices and stuff have kind of escalated, almost doubled at one point, I guess, when you guys could figure this in. Is that, I mean, I didn't hear how's that going to impact going forward?
He's
So
asking
they
if
do
the
an
rates have
Opus.
changed since.
It's an Opus Plus, so the rack price, then they'll tack on 4 cents for delivery of that fuel.
That's right.
Essentially the same way we do it in the oil field.
Right.
In this case, it's Opus plus 0.1 on with Parks Fuel, 0.01.
Okay.
Just charging 1 cent over the rack price.
Is the purchase price also include the tax exempt status?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
It's all in. Anyone else? Do I have a motion? It's been motioned and seconded to approve RFP number 26-01, bulk fuel and diesel and gasoline. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Moving on to agenda item 11.3, consider and take possible action to approve the grant of temporary working space easement to Encore Electric Delivery Company LLC and authorize the superintendent to execute documents necessary to effectuate the same. Presenter, Park Hill, Mr. Lopez.
President Gwynn, members of the board, and Dr. Howard, I'm pleased to present a action to approve the grant of a temporary workspace. This is similar to what was approved last month for the Lee High School campus. This is for the Midland High campus. The contractor, Lee Lewis, has requested temporary power, and in doing so, Encore needs temporary easement for temporary access. Similar to the previous temporary easement, this would be for 12 months or whenever the pole is removed, whichever is sooner. So I would recommend to approve the grant of temporary working space easement to Encore Delivery for this project.
So move.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the grant of temporary working space easement to Encore Electric Delivery Company, LLC, and authorize the superintendent to execute documents necessary to effectuate the same. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11.4, discussion of request for approval of architectural/engineering services firm related to the 2023 MISD Bond Package 12, Carver Center and Young Women's Leadership Academy, and authorization to execute an agreement. Presenter Park Hill Ian.
Yes, thank you. We will be recommending Vandergrift Group Architects for this project. They have been the architects on previous similar elementary school remodels, and although YWLA is not an elementary school, it originally was Washington Elementary, and we'll be getting similar upgrades to the other elementary projects such as ceiling replacements and sprinkler replacements. And so right now, Vandergrift is a local architect that has the capacity and the previous experience to thoroughly execute these projects, and we would recommend them for Package 12, Carver Center, and YWLA.
Questions? Dr. Freeze?
So when I was discussing some of this, could you kind of just talk to the public a little bit about architectural shortage that, you know, we don't necessarily have 10 people jumping at the bit to bid for these things. So I think it would be good to discuss.
Yes, originally when the bond passed, there was an RFQ for architectural services, and at the time, the local firms and the firms throughout the state submitted, and your selection committee selected a pool of architects at that time. 3 local architecture firms submitted for those services, JSA, Vandergrift Architects, and Park Hill. There was also multiple architects out of Lubbock that submitted, and then others out of Dallas as well. And many of those were going after the high school projects that were submitting from the Dallas group, such as Pfluger. And currently you have 7 different architects that have been working on projects. And currently you have JSA, Vandergrift, Chapman Harvey, Pfluger, let's see. No, I'm missing some here. JSA, Chapman Harvey.
Yourself?
Myself, Park Hill, correct.
He said that earlier.
MWM out of Lubbock as well, and many of those are currently working on active projects and have a lot of those projects in the design phase. And Vandergrift actually just put out Package 3 in January, which was a large group of those elementary schools. And then JSA, your other local architecture firm, is currently working on a large middle school package currently. And so right now, when it comes to elementary schools, Vandergrift now would be working on a large amount of elementary schools for their size, and then JSA is also working on a large amount of middle schools for their size. And so right now, the local architects are very busy.
Mr. Hodges?
I just have a quick question. What's the total dollar amount on this for these 2 schools?
Total dollar amount, the construction cost limitation is around $9 million.
Okay, so about 4.5 apiece, give or take.
I believe the Carver, has more. Yeah.
And both of these schools, am I correct, Dr. Howard, Ms. Burleson, the board, both of these schools are both charter schools, correct?
Yes, and they're both in district charters.
These are both in district charters, similar to Idea Travis?
That's an out-of-district part.
But it's a SB,
It is an 1882, yes.
Okay, but the Midlanders are investing $9 million worth of our money in these 2 charter schools. So we do like charter schools here. I just wanted to make sure I had that correct. Thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Second? Anyone?
It has been moved and seconded to approve Vandergriff Group Architects as architectural engineering services firm for the 2023 Bond Package 12 Carver Center and Young Women's Leadership Academy as presented, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the fee and execute the professional services agreement. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Mr. Gwynn, I don't think Ms. Burleson's mic was on, so just for the record, that was Ms. Burleson that seconded,
Okay.
because the audio won't pick that up.
Did you get it? Thank you. Shelley got it. Ms. Martin. Moving on to agenda item 11.5, discussion of and request for approval of budget reallocation, transfer $5,900,000 from the Midland Lee Freshman High School project to Encore Project 2023 bond funds. Presenter Park Hill.
Yeah, so RJ, I'm going to lead this one off. So 11.5 and 11.6 are going to go hand in hand, but they are separate items. So I want to talk a little bit about how we got here and what you're going to hear. And then, of course, Mr. Lopez will certainly present all of the information that he has. But when the bond was passed, we began planning for the use of facilities, Legacy Freshman and Midland High, for example. Those are two campuses that had bond funds allocated to, but no planned use for that. And so as we started working on the long-term plan for Lee Freshman, once the bond passed, assessing district needs beyond the bond and conditions of the freshman school, we identified the need for a permanent home for Encore Academy, which is our 18-plus program for our students served through special education. And in doing that, of course, looking at the Lee Freshman site, looking at the age of that facility, looking at the size of that facility, the renovations would be costly. The building is really too big for that purpose, creating overhead where it's not necessarily needed. And so, you know, the other things that we took into account once we identified that need for Encore and working with you to determine that that was a need that you would be amenable to, then we started looking at what other facilities did we have that could possibly be an Encore Academy. And then what are the benefits of building new versus renovating, things like that. So of course we looked at the soccer softball field house at Lee High School. That's about a 22-year-old building. However, it sits on a block of land that we have not determined what's going to be the best use for that land, if any, once we move to Story Middle School. We also know that if we had gone that route and renovated that, it wouldn't be until August of 2028 until we could even begin renovation for an Encore Academy. So the soonest they could move in would be 2029. We looked at the the youth center at Lee High School. Did it make sense to renovate that? Again, that is an older building, so renovation would be possible. But same thing, we couldn't start that work until August of 2028 at the soonest. Therefore, another 2029 year to get our students into a permanent home. And so the plan that you're going to see presented tonight, of course, the first item is asking your approval to reallocate the funds from Lee Freshman to the Encore Academy project. And so the plan you're going to see tonight would allow us to begin construction, you know, obviously not tomorrow, but much sooner, and be able to open the Encore Academy in August of 2027. So 2 years sooner than all those other options. And so then, of course, as we've worked on this, the design mirrors other successful transition programs across the state. It supports 45-plus students with flexible capacity to expand. And then Ms. Shockley and her team have been involved with the architects in developing the plan, what is needed in a space like this, and making sure that we take advantage of her expertise. And then also, Story Middle School is a centralized middle school campus, but there's land available because that is a big site. It's a high school site. We have access to the nurse by putting it there on that property. However, it'll have its own front and it will feel like its own property. But I also think that it's important to note that even if you approve this 5.9 from moving from Lee Freshman to this project, it's going to leave 11.1 million, so future considerations for demolition of that campus, and estimated still saving about 8.7 million on that project. So with that being said, I'll turn it over to RJ to actually show you what I just probably said.
Yeah, that hits a lot of the high points. I would also say that it would essentially double the capacity of your program, and it would double the square footage, even between the two facilities that you have right now. It would be more efficiently double the square footage of your program, while also adding dedicated classrooms, collaboration areas, a life skills, culinary lab, vocational training spaces, an outdoor garden and recreational athletic court. So there's a lot of amenities that we would be able to create with a new facility that wasn't available when we were looking at some of the renovation options and some of the existing facilities. So this would be able to provide the exact space that those students need to really thrive for an 18 to 22-year-old special education program.
Go ahead.
Thank you, President Nguyen. This is probably going to be a question for Dr. Howard and Mr. Durham. Have y'all run the numbers, because we were talking about earlier in the special education update, being able to reallocate things to an anchored facility, being able to put the specialized staffing there? Can we, not immediate, not on the weekends, not after hours, but at some time, I think that it would be very good to be able to communicate the long-term savings that we're going to be able to reallocate towards anchoring those at a campus that is specifically designed for the Encore Academy kids.
Yes, we can look at that.
And I'm sure y'all are part of FAR, so because this is special educations and the feds are involved with the ADA, I'm sure you have someone on staff who is with FAR, right, with the on the federal side to make sure that it's compliant.
Well, yes, we'll definitely.
Because I couldn't figure out how the grifters were getting around it until I figured out that school districts were the only state entity that is not required to have a Texas certified contract manager on it and go through the state. And then when I found that out, the grift made sense. But I want to make sure that we have someone from the feds, that we're making sure that there is someone professionally, whoever does this project,
right,
is going to make sure that we're compliant, or if we need to be compliant on FAR. Because Dr. Howard and I talked about that earlier, and I went and researched a little bit more into the law, because I'm one of the only certified professional contract managers. There's only like 1% of us in the U.S. And I couldn't figure out how y'all were getting around this, and then I figured it out. Austin exempts us for the billions of dollars worth of taxes.
Yeah, like
So
you said,
anyway,
no matter who.
I want to make sure that
works
we're
on the
compliant
project.
on the FAR and the ADA side as far as the contractual process and the legal process. So that might be for Ms. Blue and Mike too.
Okay.
The super wealthy people out there in the audience.
We'll ensure it gets reviewed.
I move to approve the reallocation.
It has been motioned and seconded to approve the reallocation of the $5,900,000 in bond 2023 funds for Midland Lee Freshman High School renovation project to the Encore project as presented. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On what one? Sorry. We'll catch them right here. Her here. Park Hill will be back in a minute. Moving on to agenda item 11.6, discussion of and request for approval of architectural engineering services firm related to the 2023 MISD Bond Package 11, John Randy Story Middle School and Encore, and authorization to execute an agreement. Presenter, Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, President Gwynn. As we discussed, we're seeking your approval to select Park Hill Architecture and Engineering for the firm for Package 13, which includes improvement to John Randy Story Middle School and the new Encore facility. They are, of course, one of our chosen architecture firms from the pool that has been selected. As also previously discussed, construction could start as soon as this August and be completed by the following August of 27. Park Hill has a history with us. They've been working with us for a long time, and including projects, including Lone Star, which they came in on time and under budget. Also, as with Lone Star, they will forego, their program management fees, as they did with Lone Star, saving the district over $1 million in this project alone. The funding for the services has already been allocated, and so at this time, we're asking for approval to approve Park Hill for Package 13.
It's been motioned and seconded. I think Dr. Freed will discuss it for a minute, but there's a motion on the floor. So go ahead.
Seconded.
Yes, ma'am.
So I have some questions kind of about just the design. And so are we incorporating everything as far as access and safety into this, separate from the middle school?
Yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, and we've been separate from the campus. Anything else I'm missing?
So how about outdoor spaces? Is that going to be separate and walled off?
Yes, they'll have a separate fenced area for like some outdoor rec, I'll say picnic tables, probably not the right word, but somewhat.
Do you know how many we have right now in this program?
About 17.
17, so, and we can go up to 45 to maybe 50.
Well, that's based on 15 per class, 15 students per teacher. The actual building capacity is much larger.
Okay.
So there's room for.
So the facility will serve more students, current staff, but we're not talking about staffing tonight.
So can you kind of explain why this is a good idea and not renovating that southeast building on?
Well, the renovation costs, I don't remember the exact numbers just for that building. I thought was in the 4 million range. And this new construction is 5.9. And we have a newer, more efficient building built specifically for the program. Rather than renovating an old building and still dealing with old building problems as far as just efficiencies and plumbings and everything else.
So our maintenance operations should be lower with this new one, and lifespan should be lower with it, or longer with it.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And then I think it's also important to note that block that property sits on, the one we talked about renovating, it hasn't been determined yet if there's going to be a need for those facilities down the road. And so if not, that would have locked us into that one building sitting on more acreage than necessary and not being able to sell that property if that was a property that we no longer.
Yeah, but the southeast.
Oh, I'm talking.
I think he's talking about.
You're talking about the youth center.
Youth
center. Okay.
Yeah. So how about, uses for leave freshmen or the current map? Can you talk about how this is financially not a good place and operationally not an optimal place for the Encore Academy?
Yes, the current Lee Freshman facility would take $17 million just to make the toilets flush and the air conditioners work, and that's not even making it into a special education facility. And that's just the assessment costs to function. And then you would have extra square footage that you would have to take care of that's over 70 years old, that's not built for that function. So you would have ongoing maintenance and operations cost of a much larger facility and a lot more land that really wouldn't suit the function as well as this would at a much less cost.
I also think from a long-term planning perspective, one of the things that we've looked at with the Lee Freshman site, of course, that is a site that's large enough for a campus like that. Would it make sense down the road to have an elementary that could serve, 800 to 1,000 students versus, some of our 400 student elementaries? And so leaving that site for a future school site if the long-range planning shows that would be a viable option. So trying to look ahead and think about all those different scenarios. We're actually, sometime this next month, we should start to have some ideas of other decisions that might impact that.
Well, and both MAP and the Lee Freshmen are active campuses. I mean, I know MAP eventually would not be. It's also much larger, and it needs ADA upgrades currently, is one of the main things that it currently needs, and it's quite
Yeah, the age of that building makes the renovations so much more expensive.
All right, thank you all for explaining. That's helpful.
This might be a question for Ms. Messick, but can we incorporate maybe some renderings of what it's going to look like in the MISD, one of the upcoming newsletters?
Yes.
I mean, I think it's
We have current.
I've seen them. I think it's neat. I think it's something for the community to be proud of, really.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do schematics and then we can phase into the actual renderings. Yes.
Dr. Freeze.
So I just got one more I want the district to kind of get on record for, just to overseeing this project. Are we prepared to oversee, since we're going to be, keeping our eye on Park Hill? Are you ready to do it?
Yes, sir, I am.
All right.
Similar to what I'm doing at Lone Star currently.
When y'all do the Story Middle School, if y'all can find some 357 slugs in the wall of that fine arts hallway and find them, I'll pay you good if you can find them.
They belong to you?
No, heck no, they don't belong to me, but I was there when they shot it up.
It has been motioned and seconded to approve Park Hill as the architectural engineering services firm for the 2023 Bond Package 13, John Randy Story Middle School and Encore as presented, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate the fee and execute the professional services agreement. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? 6-1, motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 11.7, discussion of request for approval of CSP number 26-31, 2023 bond package number 8, elementary school group B, Bush Elementary, Days of Olive Elementary, Santa Rita Elementary, Scarborough Elementary renovations and improvements. Presenter Park Hill.
All right, thank you very much. We're very much looking forward to starting or continuing work on Story and Encore, so we appreciate the vote of confidence. For the package 8, we received bids for the renovation of those elementary schools. It was advertised February 21st and February 28th. The proposals were opened on March 5th. 2 vendors were submitted proposals. The evaluation committee comprised of representatives from Park Hill, MWM Architects, and MISD reviewed and ranked all proposals. The proposal from Oprex Construction with a construction cost of $18,270,000 is the highest ranked and recommended provider of construction services for the 2023 Bond Package 8 Elementary School Group B. This is within the bond budget for the 2023 bond projects for Package 8. So we would recommend approval of ranking of respondents for the CSP Bond Package 8 as presented.
Questions? Motion? It has been motioned and seconded to approve the ranking of respondents to CSP number 26-31, bond package number 8 as presented, and authorize the superintendent or designee to negotiate and execute the construction services contract with the highest ranked proposal in accordance with the published selection criteria and applicable laws. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed? 6-1, motion passes.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Moving on to agenda item 11.8, discussion of and request for approval of K through 5 RLA Bluebonnet Learning Instructional Materials. Ms. Bueno.
Good evening, President Gwynn, Dr. Howard, and members of the board. I'm bringing to the board the request to approve Bluebonnet Learning for RLA K-5, a state-developed curriculum designed to strengthen literacy outcomes across all campuses. This recommendation is grounded in alignment, rigor, and long-term sustainability for our district. Currently, our district uses Amplify Texas K-5. Over 2 years ago, this curriculum, Amplify, was purchased by a Texas education agency and adapted to align more closely with our Texas TEKS, as well to provide a fiscally responsible way for districts to adopt high-quality instructional materials. Bluebonnet Learning is TEKS aligned and approved through the state's instructional materials review process. It reflects research-based literacy practices and provides a consistent, high-quality experience across campuses. We selected Bluebonnet Learning because it is grounded in the science of reading. Since Bluebonnet Learning was adapted from Amplify, its structure and components will feel very familiar to teachers. Because many of the texts are the same, teachers can focus on mastering lesson objectives rather than learning new instructional methods or materials. Our goal is simple but crucial: strong readers and writers in every classroom. This means that we will increase the number of students reading on grade level, improve STAR outcomes, and give teachers more time to focus on instruction rather than planning. This is about improving both student outcomes and teacher sustainability. Research shows that students benefit most from high-quality instruction that includes explicit teaching of foundational skills, daily engagement with complex text to build background knowledge and familiarity with grade-level expectations, intentional development of connected vocabulary and knowledge, and regular opportunities to respond to text with evidence. Bluebonnet Learning provides all of these. Bluebonnet is grounded in structured literacy. Phonics, fluency, vocabulary, and comprehension are all explicitly taught. Students engage daily with grade-level, knowledge-rich texts, and there are supports embedded for every learner. This ensures that every student, regardless of their starting point or their entry point, has access to rigorous instruction. All students receiving grade-level Tier 1 instruction is essential to close gaps. Bluebonnet Learning includes scaffolds, connections and supports for our English learners, students with 504 plans and IEPs, and suggestions for gifted and advanced learners. Teachers will receive explicit training on how to use these supports effectively within the instructional materials. To support students who are 1 or 2 years behind, targeted intervention will occur during win time or intervention blocks. That means that students will receive the individualized support based on data, and this combination, strong Tier 1 instruction plus targeted intervention, is what accelerates growth. Our implementation plan has been very intentionally phased. We have already completed the research, planning, and professional learning overview to support teachers through this transition. Once approved, we are excited to systematically provide these resources to teachers. Materials will be ordered this spring, allowing time for any errors identified in the state's first-year implementation to be corrected. The state committed in February to resolve all errors within 30 days. By ordering in early April, we can ensure that teachers receive the updated error-free materials. Teachers will have an opportunity to preview materials before the summer with additional training provided during summer professional learning. Planning for back-to-school professional learning is already underway, and ongoing support will continue throughout the year to ensure that our teachers feel fully supported. This is not a one-time rollout. Rather, it includes ongoing support for both teachers and for leaders. Over the past 2 years, we have seen the value of developing teacher experts with our curriculum resources so that they can empower others. By being on campuses, being in classrooms, observing instruction, modeling lessons, and our current K-5 RLA coordinator used Amplify in her own classroom, we have gained firsthand experience and insight into what to emphasize during professional learning. Any curriculum that is provided by the state is going to be very robust, with many embedded supports that teachers may not first notice when they are learning the lesson structure. However, because the structure and the texts are very similar or very familiar to what they already know, teachers are well positioned to focus on these additional supports, such as handwriting instruction, fluency practice, take-home pages for homeschool connection, and scaffolds, as previously mentioned, for all learners. Our professional learning plan includes explicit support with classroom look-fors, detailing how teachers can structure their RLA block to effectively develop those skilled readers and writers that we aim for. Additionally, I think you guys heard about it earlier with Dr. Shockley, there will be a boot camp in June for school leaders, and we will equip them with the information and strategies needed to support daily instruction on their own campuses. All of this ensures that students receive the support that they need to become strong readers and writers. Teachers will receive, if we move forward with Bluebonnet, teachers will receive both digital and physical resources, including decodable texts to ensure that all students actively practice phonics skills by reading words that directly match what they've been explicitly taught in K through 3. And in grades 3 through 5, students will have individual readers that they'll be able to hold in their hands to independently access grade level texts and gather evidence to support their thinking and their writing. Activity books are designed for students to practice reading and actively responding to texts. All students will have that and will be able to practice writing skills. There are daily slides provided by Bluebonnet that will allow teachers to not have to spend their time developing those resources, but rather internalizing the lesson and making sure that they are ready to ensure student outcomes. And there are structured foundational skills materials for K through 3. Currently, Amplify only has those materials K through 2, so that'll support advanced decoding opportunities. So as well, we have some additional district-provided materials and supports. So to ensure that our teachers feel confident with this transition, they will have unit-by-unit comparisons, both the units that are the same and different, as well as texts. There will be a guide to help teachers understand the religious aspects or the religious texts that are embedded into the source materials. We will be providing TEKS or STAR-aligned district-created exit tickets. This was something that teachers have expressed the desire for, and we want to make sure that we provide that so we can ensure teacher success and, of course, student success. Those observation tools and look-fors, that will not only help teachers know what it should look like, it will also help our leaders support that work on their campuses, and then data tools and planning support. This approach ensures consistency while supporting strong instructional practices. By observing and engaging with teachers using our current instructional resource, we have identified key ways to support them during the rollout of this updated version. So one of the most common questions that we have gotten is how our current resource differs from Bluebonnet. And when we think about the differences, we know that Bluebonnet is state developed and it's fully aligned with Texas standards and expectations, whereas Amplify was adapted from Common Core standards. Because it was developed by TEA, it does provide that stronger alignment to STAR and the specificity of the TEKS, and it provides new teacher and student materials to ensure that all campuses have the resources they need for effective implementation. As well, there are some budget considerations. 2 years ago, we spent over $1 million just replacing the student consumable materials. Last year, we got that down to about $500,000. However, when we will be purchasing the consumables for students moving forward, the state will be able to provide that to us for about $200,000. That's a huge difference when we're thinking about budgets. Another thing that is very supportive is the digital access and platform with Bluebonnet is free, whereas with Amplify, that's something that we had to pay for, or we had to kind of bundle. With Bluebonnet, because it is part of the EMRA-approved materials, there is some funding with House Bill 1605, where we do have an allotment that will help pay for the initial purchase of these materials, as well as continuing getting those consumables year by year. As well, in February, we awarded the LIFT grant, and with the LIFT grant, that will help with material costs and implementation support. So that will help us make sure that how we roll this out is really successful, and we can continue to offer some support for teachers. So I do want to clearly address some concerns about possible religious content that is embedded into Bluebonnet. Bluebonnet does include texts that reflect historical and cultural contexts, which may include religious references. However, that is about developing historical and cultural literacy, not religious instruction. Content is presented academically, not devotionally. And teachers are not required or in any way encouraged to promote or endorse any specific belief system. District guidance will be able to support teachers in navigating these texts appropriately. This will align with state standards and ensure students understand the important historical and cultural references, and this will align with Board Policy EMB. In summary, Bluebonnet Learning provides strong alignment to the TEKS and to our STAR test. It is research-based literacy instruction. It will provide consistency across campuses, and it's fiscally responsible. It will be a fiscally responsible move for our district. Most importantly, it positions our students for long-term success in reading and writing. We are confident that this is the right step forward for our district, and we ask for your approval for our recommendation of Bluebonnet Learning, K through 5.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Hodges?
This one might be for Dr. Howard, the attorneys, the board. But because of this is excellent curriculum, it's phonics-based, it's done a lot of good things. But my question would be, we can pretend that politics isn't involved, politics are everyday life. And I would advise this board, based on what you think, Dr. Howard, as well, is to come up with what would be the cost and what would be the process to offer an avenue off instead of letting it build up for the 12 people, the activists that will be mad about the religious contact, the Christian national, all these things that will eventually come our way. If we're proactive on it and can develop a roadway for them to have phonics-based curriculum, or the board develop a policy to have that up front for those parents that have an issue, I think we would be doing ourselves a lot of service up front, because you're not going to let anything build to where there's got to be a pressure relief. That's the curriculum's great, I'm all for it, but I would just advise remembering that politics is going to come it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when.
Right, absolutely. So a couple of things I'll say to that. One, just as when we implemented Amplify, there was some literature that as a district we chose to not utilize. So it was not an option for Midland ISD, because there's plenty of literature to take some of those out that we determined to be maybe more controversial. The other piece is we actually have policy, and I don't know it from memory, but we have policy in place where if a parent objects to any assignment or class or reading, separate from library books, but content in the classroom, there is a policy that the board already has in place. We can certainly review that and make sure that it's ready to go in case that, but there are times, for example, a parent can ask to have an alternate assignment. So we already have that policy in place.
Perfect. I think being able to take care of it real quick will help everybody out on it. And I do want to make a statement on the Amplify, because another argument that you'll hear about, well, this is just Texas version of Amplify. It hasn't changed. It has changed. It's dramatically changed. So I just want to put this out. Dr. Gwen and I were discussing this the other day.
It's 2 months in a row I've been doctor somewhere.
With Amplify, it is a truism that this is Amplify, but it is essentially like if I get on Microsoft Word and I write a research paper and I send it to Dr. Gwen, and he gets on Microsoft Word and writes a rebuttal to my research. We both use Microsoft, that is true, but it is two separate content within that framework. So the only Amplify on this is the actual framework that we're using, and I think we need to make sure that we communicate to folks that it is the content is what matters, not the framework. That's all I have. Thank you, Dr. Gwen.
Get his graduation robe ready.
And Dr. Howard.
You're welcome.
Dr. Freeze?
So could you talk a little bit about how this is going to work for teachers? It seems like this might be easier for lesson planning, content delivery, internalization. There's some built-in features that will be an improvement over Amplify.
So because teachers are already pretty familiar with the text and the structure of how the lesson will go, that won't be the heavy lift. Instead, there will be daily slides that are provided already, which will allow them to kind of spend their time reviewing the text, planning for what kind of questions they want to ask, planning for how they want to model a certain portion of the text, kind of their thinking about the text. And so that will allow them to focus on that rather than having to snip a piece of text and determine what might be the focus teak of the day and what questions to ask, or maybe what the exit ticket might be. So it will be a lift for teachers because they are going to be familiar with the text for the most part. They're going to be very familiar with the structure of the lesson, and they can spend their time just paying attention to how to ensure that students are successful. There are some additional supports with any curriculum. You might see it on the side. There's like some guiding questions. If you have a student if you have an EB student, here might be a couple of ways to help them access the text. So there's a lot of those supports that are built in to help teachers be able to internalize that lesson more easily.
So the other thing one thing that I'm really starting to notice is, I think we use screens way too much. Can you talk about how this is a lot of non-screen, and how do we make sure that the teachers are keeping their kids off screens?
So when we're thinking about the materials that are provided, first of all, yes, the teacher has a slide deck that they can do what makes sense for teachers, where they've got the text on the slide, they've got their guiding questions on the slide, they've got that to help them with their delivery of instruction. But students have texts in their hand that they can read. In 3 through 5, they have a reader that they bring. If you were to go to the carpet or you were to be at your desk, however, teachers set that up, they have that text that they can hold in their hand. They don't have to access a screen to do that. That allows them to maybe highlight or stick a sticky note in that book and maybe write their response right there. So you do have the text where students can have that in their hand. They don't have to go to a screen, open up a screen and look at the text on the screen, which can happen for some schools right now because they maybe don't have those readers. As well, there are provided activity books where students have the opportunity to go and write their responses in the activity book. Again, that takes away the need to get on a screen and write their responses there. Now, when you think about students that are in 3 through 5, when they're kind of transitioning to, well, you're going to see STAR on a screen, you might have teachers that have the text, have the physical text in the hand, they have the screen up here, and they're making the connection of, you see what you did right here in your book? That's the same thing you would do on the screen. Let's practice that. So that's a way to prepare for how we take a test, but teachers have all the resources that they need in hand.
So, yeah, I like all the consumables. Could you kind of describe how we will not be running out of consumables compared to how maybe we used to? You know, we used to hate, we're going to take down all the trees, but now we have all these carbon sequestration people that this is a great carbon sequestration plan, is to use lots of consumables. And I think it's great. I love using paper. So could you talk about how we have all this availability of paper?
So we have all this availability of paper. When you notice on the budget considerations, first of all, the consumable materials would be significantly less expensive for the district. But when you think about the funding that happens through House Bill 1605, there's entitlement money that allows us to be able to purchase consumables, and the entitlement is actually larger than what we will need to utilize to purchase the material. So that will allow us, let's just say we've got 10 students who come into the district. We're able to purchase those materials and provide them for those new students that have come into the district, because it's a easier lift for us to do as far as our funding.
So also, we talked a little bit about, they give you like time allotments, and how are we going to go forward to make sure principals are really watching that? We have some teachers that spend all their time on skill development, others that might spend all their time on content and, all the different reading techniques. How are we going to monitor this and make sure that, we're kind of loosely, at least loosely following the guidelines in every classroom?
So there's a couple of different ways, I think, to support that. 2 years ago, when I came to the district, we created a minutes document to help guide teachers with what instruction should look like in their classroom. And it was pretty simplistic. You have 60 minutes for knowledge, you have 60 minutes for skills. Within that time, you've got some kind of chunks. Last year, we really tried to provide a lot more detail to ensure that teachers knew what that looked like. But I think what I noticed this year is we still have to dig in and make sure that that's very clear to teachers. And I think that happens through modeling those lessons so that teachers can actually see what those timestamps look like, as well as making sure during the boot camp we can train our leaders. So I think we've done a lot of things to ensure that teachers know what the expectations is. That's a big goal for our back-to-school professional learning, but we know that instruction works best when teachers know the expectations, and so do the leaders. And so that is part of what we have planned for boot camp, as well as what we have planned for back-to-school professional learning.
Could you expand a little bit more on differentiation?
So there's a couple of different things that I may want to say about that. Number one, when you're thinking about Tier 1 instruction, which is the best way to actually close gaps, strong Tier 1 instruction should be at grade level expectations, which meets our board goals and everything that we are aiming to do, which is ensure that our students are at grade level or higher. And so Tier 1 instruction is teaching students on grade level. However, students have to have access to grade level content, but some students may need a little extra support, and they can get that in the Tier 1 block during the opportunity where they're practicing. And they can also get some extra support during the win time or their intervention blocks that are built into their day. So differentiation can happen during class, during Tier 1 instruction, and there are some supports within Bluebonnet that provide that. And differentiation can also happen in different parts of the day to ensure that students are getting truly what they need based on data.
All right, I got one more, just kind of a comment and then kind of a final question, but on the religious aspect, I think it's very important to understand. I mean, it's not only is there Christianity and Judeo-Christian texts in this, I reviewed it quite a bit, but there's polytheism and then they go through some of the other world religions. And, we live in a pluralistic society where we need to be able to relate to other peoples, other cultures. If you're going to become any kind of student of English Lit or British English Lit or American English Lit, you need to know some of the religious allegories and all these things. If you go into medicine, you need to be able to understand people's points of view. So I think having some degree of religious literacy is very, very important for kids. And that's just my perspective. But to kind of follow up on that, do we have guardrails in place so that we don't have wild indoctrination going on? How are we going to address that?
Well, there is a board policy that you guys have passed and is required to be signed by every teacher that does support that as well. That will be part of our professional learning opportunities. That is part of the work that we have to do to make sure that they're aware of that policy and make sure that they understand the guardrails. So that will be what we will have to do, that we were required to do and we're excited to do and we're ready to do.
Ms. Burleson?
Oh, I'm not going to be freeze. I just have a couple of really comments, I guess. You mentioned handwriting, which I'm so excited about, I'll tell you that. Is that going to be in the reading block that they're doing it specifically?
Yeah, there is time built in for that because that's during the foundational skills part. There is explicit instruction on handwriting and cursive that is provided.
Perfect. And also the homeschool practice, which, will that be something that's required daily from the program, or will this be teacher decided, I guess?
So when we train with the resources, we will definitely help teachers understand the value of those and provide the guidance that it is expected. When we think about developing a students really truly need multiple opportunities to reach and master grade level TEKS. And those opportunities are absolutely provided within the school day, but an opportunity to go home and engage in that again will only ensure that our students become truly strong readers and writers. So that will be part of the guidance that we provide. And I think by providing appropriate training so that they know how to do that and appropriate training for leaders as well, we can ensure that that occurs.
So since the
so that training, when they're able to get that supplemental, that's something they could have access on the digital platform, right?
They can. I don't think they need to because the way it works is in the activity book, it might say lesson 1.1 and you've got an opportunity to practice lesson 1.1 here. Maybe you turn the page and you might get another opportunity to practice, something later on in the lesson. And then if you flip to the next page, it'll say take home lesson 1.1. And then you just tear it right on out. You take it home, you put it in your folder, your take home folder, you finish it with your family. There's some instructions at the top. It says, dear families, this is what we have been working on. This is the practice you can do at home.
Oh, so they actually tear it out of the book on this one. I like that better than put them a little wooden desk back there, all the thousands of hours they spend on travel teams. You got it.
Ms. Burleson.
Good old-fashioned teaching. I think you may have answered this, but if the books since they're all, they're not consumable, but they're also not hardback readers in the classroom. So if they do wear out, which with a lot of use they can.
Absolutely.
So the state's going to reimburse for whatever it is that we're purchasing?
Because the consumables that are at a lower cost than our entitlement, it's a lot easier for us to be able to purchase those materials that run out on I would say maybe a more routine basis because the entitlement is higher than what it will cost to get those consumables.
Okay. And I guess my last comments to teachers basically is that since we've done the framework for the last 3 years of Amplify, then this is going to be an easier implementation going forward because we already have the framework. That's basically what we're saying, right? Or what's happening?
I wouldn't think that this is, so we've previewed this information with teachers, and their big questions are, when can we get the materials? Because we want to start thinking, we want to put our eyes on it so that we can see the similarities and we can start planning. So I don't think it'll be, it will not be different in how they structure their day. It will be very similar to what they are used to right now, and the texts are very similar. I do not think it'll be very different for teachers. There might be a lesson here or there that is a little bit different, but you know, just like any good teacher does, they plan a little bit differently year to year, even if the resources are the exact same. It's going to be the same situation with
Yes.
a new adoption.
Thank you. I know that there was a while where the district went through many curriculum changes, and I just wanted to make sure that the teachers know that we are behind them on this, and that we've looked at it, and that there's some really good things going on, and I believe they can just step right up to the plate. Thank you.
And you said it's mathematically impossible for us to outspend our consumables, essentially?
I'm not sure we should try, but that is not how it is set up.
That's the first time in history the state's ever done it. Somebody's cousin's uncle's on the education committee at the State House.
Dr. Freeze, go ahead.
I got one more. So I reviewed some of the content. It is very similar to Amplify. And I reviewed kindergarten had the farms material, grade 1, American Independence, grade 2 had fairy tales and tall tales, grade 3, the human body, grade 4, there was a thing on Number of the Stars, kind of a context to, grade 5, the Renaissance. So in all this, it's really going to be giving you a lot of breadth and depth of learning. I read a great chapter on Lorenzo Medici the Magnificent. It was one of my heroes in the Renaissance, along with the great Charlemagne and Churchill. So I think we should teach about those guys too, if we can. But anyway.
So one of the premises of structured literacy is the idea that students really need that depth, not just surface level understanding of a whole bunch of different topics. So that is how it's set up, is that you might have a topic in kindergarten that you'll come back to and have a little bit more depth in second grade, and a little bit more depth in fourth grade. And that's intentionally set up that way so that students really do gain knowledge about the world. Because when you have knowledge about the world, it's a lot more easy to comprehend the text that you're reading, because it makes sense to you, because you understand all the references.
Do I have a motion?
A motion.
It has been moved and seconded to approve the adoption of Bluebonnet Learning as the district's K through 5 RLA curriculum for implementation starting in the 26-27 school year. All those in favor, raise your hand. Unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 11.9, discussion of and request for approval of 2025-2026 Target Improvement Plan for IDEA Travis. Ms. Bueno.
Good evening, President Nguyen, members of the board, and Dr. Howard. At this time, we will ask for approval of the Targeted Improvement Plan that IDEA Travis did present during our public meeting.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It has been motioned and seconded to for the approval of the 25-26 Target Improvement Plan for IDEA Travis. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 11.10, discuss and possible action to direct board counsel and the superintendent to negotiate and return to the board proposed amendments to the IDEA contract, including provisions related to board goals, teacher quality, and progress reporting. Dr. Freeze, this is your item.
Thank you, Dr. Gwynn.
Giving me too much credit.
So I also had a really good discussion with Dr. Cottrell. You're doctor, right? Everybody is. So, you know, and we all kind of have the same goal of, and we're all responsible for educating these kids at IDEA Travis. We all care deeply about each and every one of them. And so I kind of talked to board counsel, Ms. Blue, about, what are some things that we could do possibly as a board to strengthen our agreement and would be feasible and hopefully agreeable, especially given that, there are a lot of Midlanders that support Idea Travis financially, not only through tax dollars, but through giving dollars. So I felt like it would be a good idea to bring them kind of closer to how we govern our schools and some of the same guidelines. And so that's what a lot of this motion is about. And then also I kind of think there is some accountability that we can do a little bit better at from everyone involved. IDEA seems to have a great model. They're very successful across the state. It might be a little bit more difficult with this situation. The 1882, I recognize that this is their only time they deal with that. So maybe they could give a little bit, also as far as some of these contract amendments. But they're doing a great job at UConn, and I talked about some of the numbers earlier. And I would like to see our numbers at Travis kind of mirror those. And so I kind of want to do whatever I can as a board member to encourage that. So after that being said, I have the amendments on here, and I'll toss it back to President Gwynn for discussion and any deliberation.
Does anybody have any questions or comments? Listen.
So I agree with these, that this would be nice to have the same goals since we're doing in-district charters. But I don't, and this may not be the right place to say this, but I would like to see it with all of our 1882s to have the same goals. For one thing, it's easier to monitor what's going on at each campus, because when you bring in different sets of items and we're not looking at the same apples to apples, it just, as a board, because boards will change. So to keep consistent with contracts, it would be nice if we reported things the same way. What you do inside your school is going to be, up to y'all how you teach, what materials you use, et cetera. But if we just see these basic goals stated the same way as what we're expecting all of these in the district to do, and since y'all are in district charters, it would be nice if there was a compromise there to report things the same way. I know with charters, because I was a part of a board when charters started, you do have autonomy, and I do realize that you don't have to do everything the same way. But for us on this board sitting here now and for future boards, it would be nice if it was consistent in at least the reporting.
Hear, hear.
Anyone else? Motion? Or
I just would like to tell to the district and to all whoever is involved in it, not to over-engineer it. Dr. Freeze over here and Kara Blue have already looked at it. It's already over-engineered, but it should be as simple as being able to give. Essentially, here's my standard deviation. I'm going to convert this over to a visual that y'all want. AI can take care of it in like 3.5 minutes. So that's all I have to say. Don't over-engineer it.
do I have a motion?
Yes, I move.
It has been motioned and seconded for the approval to direct the board council and the superintendent to negotiate and return to the board proposed amendments to the IDEA contract, including provisions related to board goals, teacher quality, and progress reporting. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Motion passes. Moving on to agenda item 12, closed session. I don't have anything. Dr. Howard doesn't have anything, so we will not go into closed session. So 13, no action from closed session. 14, information items, board committee monthly report, reportable purchase orders over 50,000, donations over 5,000 or less, or 5,000 less than 20,000, human capital monthly report. Do I have a motion to adjourn? It has been motioned and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor? The time is now 9:04 p.m. This meeting's adjourned.